Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto rejects his heritage part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. It had been 3 years to the day that he received his first ever gift, a bag of hard candies, from the old man and woman who ran the candy shop that the other children frequented. He had gone there one day at the tender age of 5 with some change he gathered up, and purchased a single caramel piece. That had started a love affair with candies of all kinds. He would search tirelessly for fallen coins to feed his addiction. In truth, it wasn't only the fact that the candy was great, so much as he was allowed to buy it. The old woman at the counter even smiled at him and asked him his favorite, to which he replied that he had never had candy. Since then, every time he went by, she would have something new for him to purchase, stating that once he had tried enough, he was sure to find one he liked best. He ate taffy, licorice, gummies, sour candies, hard candies, and more, never finding one that he didn't like just as much as the next. They treated him well, better than most ever would. They cared for him and smiled at him. While all throughout the village he would receive glares and harsh words, at the candy shop he only ever felt a sense of warmth and belonging. He only ever got such treatment from the kindly orphanage matron. For some reason, when mothers and fathers came to adopt, she would take him to the back room, after buying him a bag of candies, and just sit by his side on the couch. He would eat his candy and tell her about his day, and she would listen, resting a hand on his head affectionately. He once asked her why he couldn't meet the parents like the other kids. It was the Naruto saves Mito Uzumaki first time he saw the sweet woman cry, and he regrets his asking every day. "There is nothing wrong with you," she said through her tears. "You're the sweetest thing, and none of them deserve you." He dropped the subject. He wanted to have a mother and a father, but not if it made the matron cry. He owed her too much. It was from that day on that he called the matron cousin. She seemed so happy the first time he said it, so it stuck. He was content with the life he led, spending adoption days with his cousin, and eating candy from the best shop in Konoha. Sadly, people took notice of Naruto frequenting the shop and began to avoid it. The old couple lost a lot of business and began to have trouble keeping the place afloat. Eventually they were forced to close down. Naruto was crushed. He blamed himself, having noticed other children's parents sending covert glares at the old couple's way, the same glares he received. The old couple, who Naruto came to know as Kampito Bacon and Ojiken respectively, knew they had to leave the village in order to open their shop again. They told Naruto that he reminded them of their son who they'd lost during the Kyuubi attack, and promised to see him again one day. The day they left by wagon from the village's front gates, Naruto, the sandaime, and the matron of the orphanage were there to see them off, as Naruto clutched tightly to the matron's dress, trying to hide his tears. "Thank you for being so kind to him," the third had said. It meant so much to him. The old couple nodded, then knelt before Naruto, holding out a 1-pound bag of multicolored spheres. Naruto's eyes lit up as he launched himself into a hug, crushing his bag between the three of them. Once the hug ended, the couple boarded their wagon and began to leave. As Naruto watched them depart, all that the adults present could think was how much more he deserved than what they could give him. Now 8 years old, Naruto lay on his bed, tears stinging his eyes. He had just wanted to buy a piece of blueberry licorice. He had never had it before, and the shop owner had chased him out with his broom. As Naruto sat on the ground outside, he made a show of handing a free piece to all the children who passed, grinning evilly in Naruto's direction every now and again. Naruto's watery eyes stared down at the small red orb on his palm, a smile gracing his disheveled features. If there was one thing that could lift his spirits, it was the thing he held in his hand. The day had taken its toll on him. He needed the comfort it provided. He opened his mouth and popped it in. "Cherry," he thought as he enjoyed the treat. "It's the last one though, so I will have to grow up. I'm starting the academy tomorrow. I have to be strong. Strong ninja don't cry, and they don't need candy." As the candy worked its magic, Naruto savored its sweet taste. He drifted off to sleep, dreaming of the day he can see them again. "Maybe," he said with a yawn, "it's okay for a ninja to need candy every now and again." Tomorrow he began the academy, the first step on the road to acceptance. Everyone in the village respects the ninja that protect them. Amai. Naruto ran. He ran as fast as he could from the academy gates as the mocking laughter of the villagers followed him down the street. Tears stung at his eyes as he made his way swiftly home. What had he done? It was the first day. He just wanted to go to his classes, but that villager said he could never be a ninja. He told him he had no chance, and that he personally would not allow a monstrosity such as him to step foot in the building. Naruto would have just gone ahead anyway, but then more and more people began to gang up on him with cries of, "Yes! And we can have it getting stronger." That wasn't what did it for him though. It was what he heard below, the yells, the whispers they thought he could not hear. "Demon. Should have been killed. Doesn't belong. Monster." And so he ran, as fast as his legs could carry him, to the little apartment the Hokage had bought him a year before when he left the orphanage so that the other children would have a chance at adoption. He missed his cousin every day, but once one of the villagers saw him, word spread, and he didn't feel right keeping the other children from having families. She said she would come to his birthdays, but wouldn't be able to visit because of her responsibility to the orphanage. Falling to his bedside, he began to convulse, heaving sobs shaking his body as he cried out in utter despair. Why him? What had he done to deserve this punishment, to be damned in the home he loved despite himself? He reached for his only comfort, his bag of candies, only to recoil in horror when he remembered that he had indeed eaten the last one. He punched the tiled floor so hard it cracked and his knuckles bled, but he didn't notice. He curled into a ball next to the bed, tears pouring from his eyes as he yelled, "Why, O bacon, O jikin? Why did they force you to go? Why do they hate me? Why can't I have my mother? I try and try, but no matter what I do they still look down on me. Why?" He gripped his stomach tightly, muttering to himself, not noticing the faint glow there. Within the seal. Naruto's intense emotions had allowed for Kyuubi to release some of his chakra into the boy. He concentrated on making it feel warm, hoping to comfort the boy who seemed to be suffering from a mental breakdown. It had no effect. The boy lay there mumbling to himself. Kyuubi strained his senses to hear. "It's okay to need candy," the boy said in a silent, crazed voice, every now and again. Kyuubi sighed. Of course, the kid had always eaten those sweets when the weight of his burden fell on him hardest, but that was just the problem. There was no candy, not anywhere in the house, and the kid was on a downward spiral. His mind seemed cracked. Kyuubi racked his brain for a solution, and then it hit him like a sack of bricks. The boy's bloodline, on his mother's side, the blood of a recon specialist. The ability to take trace amounts of vitamins and multiply them within the body, allowing them to go long periods of time in less than friendly environments, chemically removing toxins from anything they eat and amplifying its nutritional value. Manipulate naturally occurring bodily chemicals such as adrenaline to increase reflexes and perception at will. The Uzumaki were known for being survivors. The boy did his ancestors proud living in this village, living with its hate. The part of the bloodline that neutralized toxins also kept the bearer from harming themselves with excess of anything. It's the only reason Naruto hadn't died of sodium intake due to all that ramen. His bloodline took the excess salt and stored it away in a clan-specific organ on the off chance his body needed a dose of sodium on the spot, while it also amplified the effectiveness of the proteins in the meats and the nutrients in the vegetables. His bloodline was a passive one, but could be manipulated with training. Then there was his father's bloodline. Kyuubi smirked. If he manipulated the kid's blood, he could get him a sweet treat. Whatever else he does with the gift is up to him. He got to work. Amai. Naruto grit his teeth as a sudden pain erupted in his stomach. His body felt like it was on fire, his insides were melting. He ground his teeth together so hard he felt parts chip off, surprisingly sweet parts. They melted his mouth as the pain receded. The sweetness calmed him, taking him back to a time when he felt cared for. He licked his teeth, finding them jagged. They tasted sweet to the tongue. It was the strangest thing. He went to the mirror in his bathroom and opened wide only to gasp in shock. There at the tips his teeth were pointy, clear crystal-like protrusions. They made his mouth look like that of a shark. Naruto came to a decision and bit down hard, crushing the faux jaws and coating his mouth in its sweet remains. He had no idea what had happened, but he couldn't wait to find out. All thoughts of the villagers left his mind as he savored the sweet taste. 1 year later. A 9-year-old Naruto sat alone in his apartment. He had secretly been experimenting with his strange new ability. At first it was hard. Slowly he began to feel it. So far he can only concentrate it on 2 areas, his mouth and arms. When concentrated to his mouth it forms those crazy crystal jaws, which he found were sharp as honed blades. He called this technique Sweet Tooth, but has no idea when he will ever need it. The second skill is what got him exited. He called it Rock Candy Protection. It coated his arms in an inch-thick layer of super hard crystallized sugar. He tried stabbing it with a kunai, and it held firm. The best part was that if he focused hard enough he could lengthen some pieces into spikes. He figured it would work for close combat, as even when blocking he could deal damage to his opponent's fists. As of now, though, it took too long, more than 5 minutes, for him to do it, so he couldn't rely on it in battle. He heard a knock at his door and immediately rushed to the door, expecting a visit from the Hokage that very day to discuss his grades at the academy. It was Sunday, so he didn't have any classes. When he opened the door, however, he was greeted by a forceful palm strike to his forehead, and then darkness. As he began to slip back into reality, he heard what sounded like a heated argument. He tried in vain to concentrate on the voices, but only came up with a few broken sentences. "Hand over, you have already taken just a boy. Never hurt him, slaves to our families, a place of honor. Naruto began to come completely back to reality in time to hear the end of the verbal bout. No matter how good your intentions, this is still a crime. Now I will say it again. Give us the sample. Growled out the Hokage. Naruto had never heard him so angry. It's too late, Hokage-sama, came a calm female voice. Before you left, a hawk carried the sample away. You would have to overturn the entirety of the Hyuga clan complex to find it. You do realize that this is a transgression that I cannot allow to go unpunished, Hyuga-san. Let it be known that I will no longer stand for the main house pushing you all to such desperate measures. It warms my heart knowing that even in death I have done all I can for my family. May the branch family raise up into new glory with Naruto-sama at its center. By your leave, Hokage-sama. Dog, the Hokage said, voice laced with sadness, she is to be executed. Cat, take Naruto to the tower. The two masked nin went to their assigned duties. Cat removed Naruto from the bed, holding him tightly in her arms. Naruto remembered this Anbu. She watched out for him as a child, saving him from a pack of rabid dogs once. For what it's worth, the dog masked Anbu whispered into the Hyuga's ear, you tried to do more for my sensei's son than this entire village combined. You went about it the wrong way, but at least you tried. For that I thank you. Cat disappeared in a swirl of leaves just in time to shield Naruto's ears from the wet squelch of Kakashi's blade piercing the Hyuga's heart. This is getting out of hand, Sarutobi sighed. Am I? The Hokage was feeling every bit of his 60 years. He puffed his pipe as he stared across at the demanding face of one Uzumaki Naruto. He was never one to kowtow to another's demands. He had stood his ground against some of the most powerful people in the world without a hint of fear. Yet he could not deny this young boy the answers he sought, not after the life he has led thus far, and the incident that had just occurred. He sighed. Yes, this horrid incident, born of his own ignorance, and the terrible practices he allowed to go on in his own village. The Hyuga branch family had been oppressed for far too long. They were bound to rise up and defend themselves, but their means of rebellion surprised him. It was a little-known fact that the Uzumaki clan developed earlier than other. It was even lesser known in the leaf that the clan existed. He was once told by Kushina, Naruto's mother, that Uzumaki developed, matured, and married young. At age 13 you were considered an adult within the clan. It had something to do with their bloodline, which Kami be praised, Naruto inherited. So when a young nurse of the Hyuga branch family ran Naruto's physical and realized this, they immediately believed it may be his prisoner's influence. The branch family held Naruto in high regards. They thought of him as a kindred spirit, forced into a lower station by those he is meant to protect. Looked down upon, treated as less than human, as less than their very family. So when the opportunity presented itself to rise above the oppression and give Naruto the family he needed, they took it. They had the very same nurse steal him away and extract his baby batter. They arrived in time to stop her from continuing, but too late to stop the sample she already sent. Enough for one surefire pregnancy, she had said. Sarutobi decided to keep that information from Naruto. He didn't need that kind of stress at his age. He would keep an eye on pregnancies within the branch family, and once Naruto was strong enough to protect the possible child, he would be told. Naruto, that he began gaining to attention of the boy who had drifted away during his prolonged pause. I am sure you are wondering why you were taken. In order for you to understand, I must ask you a question. What do you know of the Kyuubi attack? Naruto took up a thoughtful pose. It happened on my birthday, and they have a festival for it that I am not allowed to go to. We haven't covered it in the academy, and I never thought to ask Kazan, because she would always bring me candy and spend the festival with me for my birthday. Sarutobi had to rein in his anger. How dare they deny him even the knowledge of his father's glory, and the chance to enjoy the festival that should in all actuality be dedicated to him. He sighed, puffing at his pipe to calm his anger. The Kyuubi was a force of nature. We threw everything we had at it, to no avail. Many died, many more would never be the same again, but in our darkest hour your father came to the rescue. My father, Naruto gasped. Yes, your father, Naruto, Sarutobi smiled, and I will tell you all about him, but first I must finish the tale. Naruto nodded, wanting to know all he could. As I said, your father fought the demon valiantly, managing to work it into the correct position for its defeat. So he killed it, and saved the village? Naruto asked hopefully. If only Naruto-kun, Sarutobi sighed. He was the fourth Hokage, and even his strength could not match that of the fox. He had to seal the beast away, at the cost of his own life. Sadly, no normal object could hold the beast chakra. It had to be a human vessel, and a newborn at that. No, stop, Naruto whispered. He was shaking in his seat, teeth clenched. Don't say it. It just so happened he had a child on the way that night. No! Naruto sobbed. He sealed it inside his newborn son. Naruto, you are the hero of this village. No, you're lying. Naruto yelled as he tried to flee only to trip over himself, landing roughly on the office floor. He clutched his head in agony, as a horrid scream ripped from his throat. A monster! I'm a monster! The dog Mastambu from before burst from the shadows longing to comfort his sensei's son, only to stop short as a whirlwind of white dust began to spin around the boy's fallen form. He hadn't expected it, and was hit upon his palm when it sprang up. It left a nasty gash that seemed shimmer with small particles of the white substance stuck to it. The Umbu couldn't feel it, but the exposed parts of Sarutobi's skin were being pelted by the small particles like too many tiny stones. He brought a finger to his mouth, licking it, then held it up as if to check wind direction before placing it back in his mouth and smirking slightly. Sugar. Sarutobi and the two Umbu, cat having shown up a moment later, watched in morbid curiosity as the wailing boy was surrounded by the sweet storm. It began forming dangerous-looking crystals that pointed outward from the boy's body as if to protect him. They couldn't see it, but just as before the crystal jaws began to form, then as the chakra was cut from them they began to dissolve, filling his mouth with a calming sweetness. The storm of sugar died down, leaving the young boy lying in a fortress of crystalline sugar. Sarutobi ran a finger across the side of one, only to withdraw it immediately, sporting a small cut. They were sharp as honed blades. He had never seen this done before without a medium. Just where was all the sugar coming from? Kakashi, Sarutobi said, go and bring the scrolls that Minato and Kushina left with you, as well as anything you believe would help him in his training. With a swift nod, the dog Mastambu was off, a large smile behind both his masks. It's time I did well by my charge. The old Hokage sighed. About damn time, thought the cat Mastambu, her grin hidden behind her mask. Am I? Naruto awoke in a strange bed. The room had the lingering odor of peppermint, and he found it oddly soothing. Making his way from the bed to the door, he noticed shafts of light peeking from below a set of drapes. He must have slept all night. As he walked through the door into what looked like a small den, the light shone in through a large window, from which could be seen the Hokage mountain, more importantly the fourth, my father. He stared out the window, noticing the resemblance for the first time in his life. He scoffed. Who would want to be father to a demon? Sensei was very excited about having a child of his own, said a lazy voice. Naruto turned quickly, seeing a tall figure lying across the nearby couch. He was wearing standard shinobi garb, as well as mask that covered his lower face up to his nose. His one lazy eye peeked at him from behind a small orange book, the other being covered by his headband. His hair seemed to defy gravity. It hung slightly to the side, yet stood higher than should be possible. You're not a demon, Naruto, he said seriously. You are the jailer, and he is your prisoner. You protect this village every day just by being alive. Naruto glanced back at his father's face. What if the seal fails? What if it gets out? You need to trust your father's seal. Think of it as the prison, but you are the lock. He trusted you to hold strong throughout everything, so trust that he made a strong cage. Naruto sighed. Where am I, and who are you? I am Hatake Kakashi, he said as he stood up, and this was your mother's apartment. Naruto gasped as he took in his surroundings. It was cozy, it had a nice view, and he saw a line of window boxes that his mother may have used for flowers or herbs. He would need to refill those, preferably with peppermint plants, as he could smell them faintly even here. His mother must have liked peppermint. She moved into a house that Sensei had built for his family, but kept this place, meaning to give it to one of her children. She said Uzumaki were always independent and wouldn't stand for staying at home long, Kakashi stated. It feels like home, Naruto sighed. Kakashi walked to the middle of the room and set 4 sets of scrolls on the coffee table. 2 had a small whirlpool-shaped red seals, and 2 had the kanji for sugar set on a white seal. Naruto also noticed that the nightstand was peculiar. He felt a strange pull towards it. It seemed to be an oval of crystalline structures all branching out, holding up a plane of thick glass which was rimmed with silver. Like it? Kakashi questioned. You made the bottom. You took last night kind of hard and your bloodline went out of control. You settled down. But we were left with this, and we had no idea what to do with it. So we filed down the sharper points, placed a sheet of glass on it, and we had ourselves a nice little coffee table. It's, Naruto started looking for the right words. He chuckled, sweet. Har har, Kakashi deadpanned. Anyway, read the whirlpool scrolls. In order to open them, just run some blood over the seal. You have been excused from classes for the day, so take your time. And when you are done, meet me in the Hokage's office with the other 2. With that, he vanished in a pillar of smoke. I got to learn that one, Naruto said out loud. He then turned to the 4 scrolls on his coffee table, reaching for one of the red whirlpool sealed ones. He concentrated for a second, reaching inside him, and formed a small spike of crystal on his pointer finger. Pricking his thumb with the newly made spike, he ran a small amount of blood on the seal. The center fizzled slightly, then it burned away from the center out in a spiraling pattern. He opened it and began to read. Hello, if you're reading this, then hopefully you are one of my many descendants. If you are instead one of my children, and I have passed away before I could pass on this information, I am sorry, and know that I will always love you. My name is Uzumaki Kushina, and at this time I am the last of our people. Our homeland of Yuzu no Kuni was destroyed during the preamble to the Third Ninja War. As far as I know, I alone escaped the destruction. With our country went our history, heirlooms, historical locations, sacred items, and the scrolls detailing our clan history. Through this scroll I will detail what I can about of our clan's long history, as well as ensure that even in the event of my passing, my children can pass on the teachings of our clan. I was only a child when Whirlpool fell, so I only know our most basic clan history. The history of our clan expands far into the past, long before the battles Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, before the founding of the hidden villages. We were a nomadic people for a time, wandering the woods and canyons of what is now river country. After the First Shinobi War, we formed our village on the waters where the rivers met the sea, formally naming our land Whirlpool Country, for the turbulent waters of our many rivers. Some of our clan became merchants in keeping with our nomadic ways. They traveled far and wide selling their wares, but everyone would return for the festival. That was something I remember well. The festival occurred every year at the summer solstice. It was dedicated to the Uzumaki clan defending the borders of Whirlpool Country from the newly built village hidden in the stone. Alongside the people of rain, we pushed them from our home and created the village hidden in the whirlpool. It was during this time that the fabled weapon, the Yuzubirdu, a beautifully made naginata, was forged for the sole purpose of defending our village from attacks from the sea. Any water jutsu thrown at it can be negated through use of the blade, which is something the warriors carry, as well as the first incarnation of their 7 swordsmen, found out the hard way. They believed they could get a foothold in our village, hoping to further their influence. Their jutsus were rendered useless by Yuzugaku's Shodai Yuzukage. He faced the original leader of the 7 swordsmen and bested him in single combat, ending the attack. Many would say that the ability exhibited by the blade was just that, unique to the blade. That is both true and false. The blade was forged specifically for the use of this technique. No other like it exists, and no other blade can handle the strain of its use. The spiral marks that decorate the ancient-looking shaft of the blade were not there when it was first forged, and therein lies the secret to the technique itself. I will get into that later, as the blade itself and our family summons are the only things that made it out of Yuzugaku besides me. I was the heiress to the clan, and they sent me off with the blade in hopes of preserving our people's ways. Then came the Second Shinobi War. Our people were caught in the middle of the conflict between Suna and Konoha. Konoha tried their best to help us sustain or position as a neutral party, but Suna wanted to use our village as a base to stage attacks on the Land of Fire. They attacked during the Solstice Festival, when they knew all our clan would be present, and they whipped us out. They planted bombs on our ships, and cut off our exits. The village fell as I was carried away on the fastest of our family summonses to Konoha. Years later, at the war's end, the former Whirlpool Country was renamed River Country, and used as a border between Suna and Konoha, providing Suna with a larger amount of fresh water for their use, sweetening the new peace treaty between them. By that time I was a kunoichi of Konoha, and with nothing to go back to I stayed, fell in love, and am now looking forward to the birth of my first child. I am sorry that I don't have more to tell you. Our history has been lost to us, but not our future. My father always told me that life is like a whirlpool. If you look back, it will swallow you up. You just have to push forward with all your might, and find something to hold on to until the storm ends. I found that something, and you must too. Do your clan proud. You are an Uzumaki. Listen well to these last few words, as they are one of our clan's most jealously guarded secrets. We of the Uzumaki had a bloodline of our own, gifted to us by our family summon before the contract was made. Sign the contract, and call upon them. Only then will you receive training in its use. Only then can you become a hunter of the clan. Current clan head and proud expecting mother, Uzumaki Kushina. Naruto smiled as he once again pricked his thumb, running fresh blood over the next scroll seal. It burned away in similar fashion. When he opened the scroll, he found a large seal placed over it. He inspected it, then with a shrug once more pricked his thumb, running blood across it. From the smoke came 3 objects. The first was a small scroll that had a spiraling pattern running up it. The second was a large scroll. It was pitch black with orange lining the sides. Naruto surmised that it must be the family summon contract, as he had seen a similar one for the apes in the Hokage's office once. It was the final object that drew Naruto's attention. It was without a doubt beautiful. 9 months later, Hyuga compound. It was a cold, rainy night. The sounds of thunder drowned out the strained cries of a young woman as she gave her all to bring her child into this world. Another crack of thunder and another strangled cry, yet she pushed on with great purpose. They had planned very carefully, for Hyuga women were already taken to the hospital giving birth. In truth, only one Hyuga Tsukimi, younger sister of the clan head's wife, was having a natural birth. The others were induced in order to keep people away from the branch family house. There were 4 main house guards that had rounds at the branch house. If a branch family Hyuga went into labor, a single main family guard was to escort them to the hospital and observe the birth, then report later. Getting rid of the 4 guards was easy. Now there was no one to hear the birthing process, and the only witnesses were a select few of the branch family. The birth went smoothly, the end result a beautiful dark blue-haired young woman holding in her arms an equally beautiful baby girl. She had a small tuft of pale blue hair and pupil-less eyes of the same shade. "She's beautiful," commented one of the branch family women. "She will lead the Hyuga to a bright future," boasted one of the men. "No, she will be an Uzumaki," spoke Tsukimi, staring out the window, "Uzumaki Amaya, and like the night's rain she shall usher in a fresh new day." "It's a wonderful name," called one. "The future is bright," said another. "You, my little angel," Tsukimi cooed to her child, "are a hero to your people, just like your father, and like him you will persevere. He'll come for you one day, I promise." Amai. Naruto sat in his classroom at the academy. The teacher droned on and on about some battle at some rock during the First Great War. Needless to say, he was bored. He absent-mindedly twirled his lollipop in his mouth, grape. He watched his fellow classmates, some engrossed in the lecture like the pink-haired girl at the front, some outright ignoring everything like the pineapple-headed boy sleeping soundly at his desk. He waited patiently for class to let out, not noticing the pair of pale eyes that seemed to watch his every move. He was originally going to be put in the class a year above his age group, the Hokage believing it would be best for him to get any kind of advantage over the clan-born children of his age group he could. The first year was mostly history and theory. He already missed the young girl he had sat next to for the 4 days he was in the second-year class, whom he had affectionately nicknamed Buns, much to the young girl's ire. He was going to have to keep an eye out for her. She was fun to tease and, like his candy, hardly anyone in this class appreciated it. One of those was the young shinobi in training named Abirame Shino. The ever-stoic Abirame had told him that upon entering the class for the year, he had been practicing discreet placement of his Kikai bugs. To the boy's surprise, the insect that he had left on Naruto had been reluctant to return. His bugs informed him that Naruto's chakra had been sweet-tasting. What he found interesting was that after feeding of his chakra, the Kikai took it directly to the queen. Once the queen took the chakra, the constant pull on Shino's own chakra ceased. Shino was originally slightly panicked. Kikai only had a lifespan of a few hours. Without constant reproduction occurring, he could not be battle effective. To his surprise, the queen was able to live and reproduce off of Naruto's chakra for the rest of the day. Shino was intrigued by Naruto, who said he had no idea what it could be. Naruto was accepting of him, while the other kids found him cold and weird. Once they learned of his colony, they all kept a wide berth from him, but not Naruto, who went as far as to allow his entire colony to feed from him over the course of the day. With his colony no longer constantly pulling on his chakra, Shino's pools were full for the first time in his life. If things went on this way, he may be the first Abirame be able to use non-clan-specific jutsu. The bell rang and Naruto headed out the door, but not before giving Shino a hearty pat on the shoulder, discreetly relieving himself of Shino's Kikai insects. A nod and a wave later, Naruto was walking out the front door. As the other kids' parents gave him dirty looks, he trudged on, pulling another sucker from the pack on his hip. Strawberry, a very nice taste. He was content to enjoy his treat, dead to the world, when he heard a startled cry of "Tsubaki!" He looked up the road to seeing a white-haired man in chunin attire holding a pretty dark-haired woman in his arms. He had seen the man before in the academy. He had taught the graduating class. He rushed to the woman's side, ignoring the man's glare at his arrival. He checked her over, and before the man could react, pricked her finger with a shuriken and took some of the blood into his mouth. He heard the crowd murmur various insults pertaining to demons and the like as they looked on in disgust. He had found what he expected, though. It had happened before in the hospital. He told Sarutobi that he felt an excess of sugar in one of the patients. The woman before him most likely had diabetes, and had collapsed, maybe due to dehydration. He was no doctor, but he knew that too much sugar was a bad thing for people other than him. "Did you know your girlfriend was diabetic, sensei?" he asked. Mizuki, who was going to yell at the demon, settled and raised an eyebrow. "Diabetic? Her grandfather was, but she said she hadn't ever experienced the effects. How can you tell anyway?" "That," Naruto smiled, "is a secret, but you should get her to the hospital right away." Mizuki nodded, taking up Tsubaki in his arms and running towards the hospital. Naruto just smiled. Having done his good deed for the day, he headed home. Amai. Naruto entered his apartment. It was a far cry from his old place. It had 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a nice little kitchen, and a cozy den with a nice view of his father's face. It was his mother's apartment, before she moved into the house his father built for them, the one he couldn't go near yet. He kicked off his sandals, headed for the shower to relax after a horrible day of boring history. He stood there, allowing the warm water to relax him and soothe away the stress of class. Naruto finished his shower and headed for his closet, feeling refreshed. He got dressed in a set of black shorts and a white shirt with orange flame patterns licking at the sleeves. He grabbed one of his father's scrolls, the one detailing the clan history as well as a few just involving his bloodline. He had learned that his bloodline was not used for battle until his father. He was descendant of a clan of sugar farmers and candy makers. One night, years before the forming of the ninja villages, a lowly farmer of sugar cane was lured from his field. He was in Namikaze, and that very night he was lured away by a young fox demon who fancied his looks. When she tried to force herself upon him, he refused her, saying he had a wife at home. Enraged, the demon sliced him across the stomach, her claws glowing with corrosive chakra. With a pained wail, he fell from a small cliff face, 6 feet, onto his freshly cut cane, impaling him on a particularly sharp one. His wife, having heard his cry, ran to his side. Seeing his battered form, she lifted him from the cane and laid him gently next to the field before running for help. She returned with the village doctor, and after a long night of intense pain and many near-death experiences, he pulled through. It was in the following days that he found he could feel the cane ripening in the fields. He could sense the sugar being carted away for sale in the markets. It was the birth of their bloodline, and until the Second Shinobi War, it was never used to kill. He headed out the door towards the training ground where Kakashi would be waiting for him for training in his father's bloodline. Today would be special though. After a 9 months worth of chakra-controlled training and learning to manipulate his bloodline, he would attempt his first summon. He would become a hunter. One more day, just one more day, and he will pass. His body cried out in protest, but through meditation he found that place inside him that kept him going. He sat beside a waterfall just 6 miles outside the village in a meditative state, willing the blood that flowed in his veins to do what it needed to in order to keep him alive. He had spent a year away from home, leaving the academy to complete his hunter training. He would cover the class curriculum for his final academy year between lessons with his current sensei. The last 4 years in the academy had been great, all things considered. He and Shino had become great friends, and he had finally gotten the shy little Hyuga in from the back of the class out of her shell. Hinata wasn't outspoken by any means, but when it came down to it she could assert herself when needed. His friendship with Shino, which had started as a simple experiment on Shino's part, had developed into a mutual connection. Shino was his closest friend. The stoic boy never tried to sugarcoat things for Naruto, allowing him to grow. It had been Shino who pointed out his truly abysmal chakra control, which was found to be derived from his overly large coils. This revelation resulted in his search for a new type of clone to use, as his normal Bunshin either popped or looked sickly. Naruto had informed Shino of his unique bloodline, which the boy found fascinating. Manipulation of sugar was on the surface harmless, but Shino learned differently when he nearly got hit with a jawbreaker that ended up lodged in a training post. After lots of trial and error, they were able to break down Shino's bug clone and adapt it for Naruto's use, and thus the birth of the sugar clone. One day during their first year, Hinata hadn't come to class. They found out later that she had nearly been abducted by Kumonin. Hinata was severely depressed as her aunt had been in her room at the time with her newborn daughter. Her aunt was killed, and they had yet to find the baby branch family Hyuga. Kumo had apparently asked for the head of Hyuga Hayashi in return for the death of the Kumo diplomat whom had been tasked with the abduction, but the Sandaime had vehemently refused. It took a week to get Hinata back to her old self, but they did it. From then on she gained a powerful determination. She promised to become strong enough to protect her family. She learned of his bloodline as well, and in one of her bolder displays asked for a grape sucker a day in return for keeping the secret. The Uchiha Massacre, as it came to be called, dealt a major blow to the pompous yet cheery persona that Uchiha Sasuke had exhibited first year. He progressively grew more distant from the others, and his fangirls' manic obsession didn't help any. They tried to break through his cold exterior by showing him their love. Naruto took a different approach. Every morning he would toss a blue raspberry sucker in the brooder's direction. He figured the boy liked the color blue. The boy would catch it and store it away seemingly uncaring, but on the way home every day from classes he would see the last Uchiha sitting at a nearby dock. He would wave, and they would share a small smile over a sweet treat. It wasn't much, but hey. He had dedicated time after classes to training with Kakashi in his bloodline manipulation. He found he could use sugar to form various candies using his chakra. It turned out that his chakra had a natural capacity for temperature changes needed for candy making. With Kakashi's help he made various attacks based around candy. He also purchased large amounts of candies he couldn't naturally make, since he could control them as well via the sugar inside. So he had lots of sweet treats sealed away in scrolls. He had made lots of progress relatively easily. His father's bloodline just required a lot of imagination. It was this last year that had been hell for him. His sensei was unrelenting, and he was forced to condition his body for all climates. He strained his senses to the max, learning to recognize scents in the air. He trained his eyes to find the minutest detail in the densest forests. He was taught to be silent, unseen, and utterly unrelenting. His sizable endurance was expanded upon, and on top of all that he trained his mind. A hunter must be strong, cunning, and agile. He was an ambush hunter, circling his prey as close as possible, then hit them from behind. It was now that he found himself enduring his final trial. It was just a few minutes to midnight and the end of Naruto's 40-day fast, the ultimate test of the Uzumaki bloodline, tiger's blood. Apparently it was gained when two of the first of the clan, twin brothers, defended a tiger and her cub from poachers, one sustaining a critical injury in the process. His brother, a medic, tried desperately to heal him, failing as he was losing too much blood. It was then that the tiger spoke to him, explaining that she would offer him her blood. The brother was skeptical but relented, desperate to save his brother. "You are nearly there, Naruto," a gruff voice said from the surrounding trees. "Come midnight you are a hunter for the clan. I couldn't be any more proud." "Thank you, Hanta-sensei," Naruto called back. "I can't wait to see home again." Stalking out of the forest was the largest Bengal tiger you have ever seen. It stood at well over Naruto's own standing height, which was around 5 feet, 7 inches. Its eyes were a fierce glowing gold, its rust-orange fur and ebony stripes allowed it to blend into the shadows of the surrounding forest. Its left ear had been nicked during a past battle, which he was told occurred between his mother and a troop of Iwa. Hanta was his mother's personal summon. He told him many stories of his mother's conquest and battle, and the glory of their many hunts together. "Yes," he said as he stalked forward, "the time is upon us. Naruto, as your final test to become a hunter of the clan Uzumaki. Show me death." Naruto stood stock still. Focusing inward, he found a place to rest, and did so. On the outside, Hanta examined the Naruto's body still in its meditative position. The boy wasn't breathing. He concentrated on his paws, feeling the footfalls of various creatures throughout the forest, but he could not feel the rhythmic beat of Naruto's heart. "Your mother would be proud," the beast laughed. "Get up, boy." The voice reached him, and he shook himself from the false death state he had induced. His body felt slightly strained, but was already returning to normal. Any other shinobi would have been forced into a lengthy recovery stage, but not an Uzumaki. He has done it. "It's time to go home." Naruto smiled. "Not yet," Hanta said. "First you must look the part of a hunter." "Am I?" A lone figure approached the gates leading into Konoha. It had been a short journey home, but he had decided to rest and eat before coming back. He had made it back just in time for the genin exams. When he approached the gate, he was stopped by the gate guards, who found his appearance to be slightly intimidating, though one would wonder why, due to the sucker held firmly between his lips. He was wearing a dark green cloak that was clung tightly to his chest. It parted at his waist, falling down to reach just behind his knees. The sleeves were long, but had a cut in it up to the elbow. They waved in the warm August breeze, exposing his forearms. Over top that was a leather shoulder armor that was tinted a dull shade of orange. It draped over his shoulders and chest. Both articles of clothing were made to leave the uppermost part of his chest exposed, upon which you could see a skin-tight black high-collared shirt. His black pants were slightly baggy. They were tucked down into his sandals, which were just under knee-high and form-fitting, colored the same dark green, and exposed only his toes. Just above the boot-like sandals were dull orange ropes tied tightly at his legs, dangling just short of the ground. Holding the pants up was an orange-tinted leather belt. Attached to the right side were 2 packs, one for kunai, and one for shuriken. On the left side of the belt were 2 cylindrical shapes about an inch thick, and 5 inches long. Hanging from the center of each was a small brass ring, and next to them was another small pouch for Naruto's many flavor extracts. What could he say? He had a sweet tooth. He was sporting a pair of black fingerless gloves, on the back of which were twin sets of glaring golden cat eyes. He had a peculiar hood over his head. It wasn't attached to the cloak, and it was the same dark green in color. The hood was more of a hat. The back end came down to his waist, while the front covered his eyes fully, falling just above the bridge of his nose. It was made to allow his ears to show, but otherwise fell all about his face. On either side of his face it fell, creating long droopy sideburn-like strands that were tipped in puffy white balls. There was a forest green pattern over his forehead in the stitching, 3 long gashes that curved slightly at the ends, creating the illusion of claws tearing through it. Above them was what seemed to be the stitching of a tiger's head, mouth open in a great roar. The only parts stitched in were where the black striping would have been, as well as the teeth, and it had the same menacing gold eyes. "I am here to see the Hokage," Naruto spoke. "He is expecting me." "We have no record of you here at the gate," spoke one of the Chunin gatekeepers. "That is because he was out there in secret," came a lazy voice from above. A dog Mastambu seemingly materialized beside the strange boy, placing a hand on his shoulder. I will escort him to the Hokage, he droned as leaves began to swirl around them. You two just act like this never happened. Am I? The Sandiame smiled at the boy across from him. He had removed his hood, placing it in his pack. His deep blue eyes were filled with happiness, in stark contrast to his formidable appearance, his spiky blonde locks as unruly as ever. I must say, Naruto-kun, Sarutobi chuckled, the year away has done you well. You look ready to take on any challenge. Naruto laughed. Of course I am. I am going to ace that exam, Aji-san. That's good to hear. It reminds me of the day your mother returned from the same trial, the old man said with a slight blush, although her hunter's garb was a tad bit more provocative. Naruto cried, Aji-san, stop having dirty thoughts about Ka-san. The old Hokage chuckled, as did the Anbu behind him. Okay Naruto, let's get back to business, Sarutobi smiled. We seem to have a problem. You are a day late, and missed the genin exams. Naruto looked crestfallen. All that hard work and he missed his exams, he would be separated from his friends. It's okay, he mumbled, I'll try for it next year. Hold on now, Sarutobi said, there's a lesser-known law that I believe we can exploit in this situation. You see, upon the founding of the village, the world was still in a state of constant battle. As such, there were many unbound summons floating around in the hands of wandering ninja. Many of them were lost, the scroll's creator dying, Naruto said, and without any other signers, many animal clans were lost to the world. Correct, Naruto-kun, he smiled. Now, as I was saying, Konoha at the time had offered a home to any contract-bearing ninja so long as said summon clans swore allegiance to Konoha, for as long as the contractor and their descendants were safe within its walls. The ninja who supplied the contract was given a rank in keeping with their skill level. So if my tigers were to swear loyalty to my Konoha, I could become a genin, Naruto shouted. Correct, Sarutobi stated. We can do this at a later date, but as of now you are an official genin of Konoha, and should report to the academy for your team assignments. In addition, you have my permission to use your bloodline freely. Things are going to be changing in Konoha. Sarutobi produced a newly polished headband from behind his desk. The cloth was a deep green. How had the old man known? Naruto placed the headband on his belt like a buckle, admiring it. After years of study and hard work, he had finally taken that first step. One day all the elemental nations would know his name. Am I? Uzumaki Naruto, Academy Instructor Yumino Irika questioned. Who's that? Wasn't he that candy guy in third year? Naruto must have lots of cavities. Similar murmurs ran through the room. Hardly anyone seemed to remember the candy addict, those that did being either close friends or devout Sasuke fangirls who noted the silent relationship the two boys had. Shino's eyebrows were lifted above his sunglasses. He had been awaiting his friend's return, and he had been disappointed when he hadn't shown up for the test, but it seemed that he had pulled it off anyhow. Hinata, for her part, was ecstatic. She would be on the same team as her two best friends. Even Mizuki smiled at the mention of the boy. Tsubaki, the love of his life, had been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes that very day 5 years ago. Apparently, she had suffered from a complication of the disease called diabetic ketoacidosis. It caused her to collapse. They told him that had he not gotten her there so quickly, she could have fallen into a diabetic coma, or just died outright. Your sensei will be Yuhi Kurenai. I have no idea where your last team member is, Bu. Just then the door slammed open and a green blur barreled in, landing in a heap. His hood went askew, leaving him with his left eye at his earpiece looking up at the laughing faces of his classmates. He noticed that the Uchiha still had a calculating gaze trained on him, as did Shino, while Hinata stifled a giggle. He stood to his full height, startling the students as he was just as tall as Shino, the tallest in their year. Irika was going to ask the boy where he had come from when he noticed him reaching for his belt. He was going to stop him, but was surprised as he produces 3 short wooden sticks, thin as straws and long as his middle finger. The class watched mesmerized as white crystal-like structure formed on his hand. It began to fall away to grains of white sand which began surrounding the tips of the sticks in an ovular shape. He reached into his pack once more as the 3 sticks floated in the air before him. He pulled out 3 small squirt bottles. A light squeeze later, 3 streams of fluid were floating in the air beside the sticks. Naruto was having the time of his life. He had always wanted to show off his bloodline. It was just so fun to use. He was always a little sad when the other clan children would display their unique jutsu, and knowing he couldn't do it as well always put him in a sour mood. Shino watched as Naruto worked. He had seen it done before, but he always loved the artistry in which Naruto made his simple treats. He watched as the 3 streams of liquid wrapped about the ovals of sugar, spinning furiously, saturating every bit in its chosen flavor. He remembered this part. Naruto told him he mixes all his flavorings with light corn syrup, a key ingredient in the making of the suckers. He watched as the ovals bubbled lightly as Naruto applied heat to his chakra, then once the cooking was done, he spun them rapidly to cool using his sugar control to keep the malleable sweet in shape. The end result was 3 perfectly smooth suckers, one a light foggy red, one a deep violet, and the last an airy blue. With a flick of his wrist, Naruto sent them flying. Shino deftly caught his in his mouth, savoring the taste. Boysenberry. Hinata caught hers between 2 fingers, giving it an experimental lick. Grape. Sasuke, on the other hand, caught his lightly in his hand before pocketing it with a smile twitching at the corners of his lips. So it is you, Naruto. In the flesh, he replied, glad to see you graduated, wouldn't want to leave you too far behind, what with all the training I have done this year. Sasuke scoffed, as if, I wasn't just sitting at that dock waiting faithfully for your return. I have been training as well. I would have been disappointed if you hadn't, Naruto said as he made his way up the aisle to sit by his friends. The people who watched the exchange were astonished. It was the most anyone had heard Sasuke say, and the banter between them was almost playful. Some of the members of the Sasuke fan club were looking to find out more about the boy, hoping to gain some insight into the mind of their beloved. While some were looking at Naruto in a new light, already at the edge of hatching plans to get some sugar from the boy. No one noticed as Naruto dropped a small bag into Sasuke's hand, with a note that read, I missed a few days. The bag was full to bursting with the airy blue hard candies. Sasuke smiled, a true smile. It only lasted a second, but for once he felt like he was no longer alone. As Naruto made his way up the aisle, he was the subject of stares and whispers until one particularly bold pink-haired scholar asked the million-dollar question, How did you do that, Naruto-san? The boy just smiled widely, his hood and clothing giving him a menacing look. He noted the slight apprehension on their part, and resolved to get another set of clothes. That was my bloodline, he smiled at their shocked looks, complete control over sugar in all its forms, I call it sweet release. Some of the kids in the class nodded, seeing the meaning of the name, while a few of the more crude ones snickered as it sounded vaguely sexual. Naruto took his seat between Hinata and Shino. As he turned to greet them, he was immediately caught in a hug from the Hyuga heiress. The girl promptly released him, sporting a light blush. Isn't it great, Naruto-kun, she said softly, you, Shino, and I are all on the same team. It is most fortunate, I believe, Shino stated. We already work well together. To separate us would only slow our growth. Yeah, Naruto stated. With me on Shino's team, he is open to a new realm of jutsu. Also, this way we don't have to take time off in order to train together. I really want to see how much you have improved, Hinata-chan. To her credit, Hinata's face only became a light dusty red at the praise. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Shino and I have trained hard in your absence. Speaking of which, the Bug-Hughes said, if you wouldn't mind, Naruto-kun, could we go back to our normal feeding schedule? Naruto stared for a second before remembering. He offered Shino his hand, which the boy took as a small group of Kekai bugs making their way across. A few of the students looked away in disgust, but they paid them no heed. Shino smiled behind his collar. He had missed Naruto. Iruka informed the students that they would be meeting their senseis here tomorrow at noon, as the Hokage had called a meeting. The students all filed out, Naruto lagging behind with Hinata and Shino. After some quick goodbyes, they parted ways. Shino went to inform his parents about how the day went. Hinata left for the same reason, as well as to ask for more advanced training in their clan taijutsu, which she had been excelling in. Naruto was headed out the gates of the academy. He had decided that now was as good a time as any to buy some extra clothes. He was just a few blocks down the road when he heard someone calling out to him. Naruto, he turned to see Mizuki-sensei waving him down. Where were you headed? Mizuki-sensei. Naruto thought for a moment. He looked familiar, and then it hit him. Ah, sensei, how is your girlfriend? Mizuki sighed. That was the first thing the boy thought of, the health of a woman whose name he didn't even know. He cursed himself for the umpteenth time for ever buying into all that demon nonsense. She is fine, Naruto-kun, Mizuki smiled, but if you had not informed me of her condition, the doctors say she could have died. The boy looked solemn for a second before grinning widely. I am happy she is okay then. Does she like candy? Mizuki shuddered slightly. The boy's toothy grin and shadowed features made him look more crazed than happy. Naruto-kun, he said tentatively, with your clothes like that, you can come off as rather creepy. As for your question, she used to enjoy hard candies and was very fond of strawberry, but the candy stores do not offer information on sugar content per candy. So she had to give them up due to her condition. That's sad, candies are so nice, Naruto snapped his fingers. How about I make her some? I can regulate the amount of sugar per piece since I make them all using my bloodline. Mizuki smiled at that. It would certainly lift Tsubaki's spirits. Could you, Naruto? It would mean a lot to the both of us. It's easy enough for me, Naruto laughed. I can have a bag made ready tomorrow before we meet our new sensei, and if you let me know where you live I can deliver a fresh bag a week, with a uniform sugar content of about 2 teaspoons. That's fine, Naruto, we have a chart for that sort of thing, Mizuki said. I feel bad having you do this without payment though. Well, Naruto replied, I was looking to purchase some new clothing. If you could point me in the direction of a shop that doesn't, well, I'm sure you know. Mizuki wore a sad smile. Yeah, Naruto, I know. I also know just the place for you. Am I? Naruto stood before a small shop that stood on the corner of one of Konoha's many back roads. The moniker Red Wolf Claw Weapon Shop, the words themselves jagged as if clawed out by a wolf. Naruto looked on in apprehension. It seemed to be a very well-off place, just the kind of place that he would be denied service from. He was broken from his gloomy thoughts as his silver-haired sensei pushed him through the door. He was immediately assaulted with the scent of leather and steel. The shop from floor to ceiling was lined with weapons of all kinds. Running down the center was a long dual-sided shelf full to bursting with scrolls on weapon forms, care, and even forging. Along between the scrolls and the weapons were racks of clothing. He made his way to the back of the shop where the counter was. He was preoccupied by the many shiny implements of death. He was about to ask for some help, since he had no idea what to get when his hood was pulled from his head with a cry of, "It's you!" Naruto turned around angry at having his hood stolen, only to come face to face with an irate Kunoichi. She was wearing a Chinese-style sleeveless pink blouse, which hugged her form nicely, along with dark green pants. Naruto was pushed from his observation when he caught sight of her dark brown hair that was held up in 2 Chinese-style xinyans. Buns, Naruto exclaimed. Don't call me that, the girl growled. My name is Tenten. But you have such cute buns, Naruto laughed. Tenten flushed crimson red. Did he have to say it like that? When he calls them buns, people tend to misinterpret. She turned back to him red-faced in embarrassment and rage. Don't call me buns, damn it, she growled. It was then that Mizuki decided to intervene. Tenten, could you help Naruto find some clothes more suited to working within Konoha, his current clothes? Make him look like some creepy stalker? I agree, how does he see in this thing anyway? Tenten had placed his hood on her head, and even with the elevation added by her hair, it still fell well over her eyes. Before she got an answer, the hood was taken from her head, after which Naruto shook his hood out and moved to place it back on. She gave him a look of appraisal. He had grown up since she had last seen him. He had really grown into his face, and his form-fitting top didn't leave much to the imagination. Blushing slightly as she realized she had been checking out the little creep, she went towards the racks and began pulling items. Naruto watched as she worked pulling out clothes only to shake her head and putting it back. Eventually she had thrown something together, thrusting it in Naruto's direction, and pushing him into the changing room. After a few moments, Naruto returned from the changing room fully dressed. He wore a top that was the color of lighter shaded leather. It was loose, and allowed great freedom of movement. The collar was a slightly tan white, as were the sleeves along the forearms, which clung tightly to his skin unlike the rest of it. He wore black pants that were just a bit baggy, but held tight by a black cloth belt, upon which were his normal effects. Criss-crossing wraps ran along his shins and were the same light tan as his collar. On his feet were black shinobi sandals. It suits you, Tenten stated. At least now you don't look like some stalker. Hunter. I am a hunter of my clan, Naruto said. It takes a lot of hard work to achieve, and those clothes are the symbol of my station. Not to be rude, Tenten said, but I thought you were an orphan like me. Naruto smiled ruefully. I just found my heritage is all. It's all I have left of my mother. Tenten leaned forward, giving him a quick hug. I'm sorry for bringing it up if it bothers you. Naruto enjoyed the warmth from the sudden embrace. When he was able to wrangle his thoughts away from how soft Tenten's chest felt pressed against him, he replied, No, it's okay. Like my grandfather always said, life is like a whirlpool. If you look back, it will swallow you up. Suddenly a loud clang was heard from behind the counter, and in rushed a muscled man sweaty from exertion. His graying black hair disheveled, his eyes wide as he stared disbelievingly at Naruto. Boy, he spoke, what was your mother's name? Dustin, Tenten questioned. What's going on? Why does it matter? Trust me, Tenten, Dustin smiled. If he answers as I think he will, you'll be on the boy in a split second. What's that supposed to mean? She shouted, red face. Not like that, Tenten, he assured. I mean that you will want to see what he may have with him at this very moment. Dustin looked to Naruto, who was feeling very much out of the loop, but not as much as Mizuki, who had arrived after the initial clamor. Tell me, boy, what was the name of your mother? I know what you speak of, Naruto said, his voice taking a dangerous edge. If you attempt to take my clan's treasure, I swear on my honor as a hunter that I will chase you to the end of this earth. Mizuki looked aghast, as he had never seen Naruto angry. It was very intimidating, as his normally cheery blue eyes became cold as ice, promising death. Tenten was slightly frightened what could be so valuable, that it would warrant such a threat. Dustin, on the other hand, just laughed. You truly are her son, he chuckled, positively ferocious when defending what you deem is yours. I don't want to take it from you, lad. I just want to give Tenten a chance at fulfilling one of her dreams. My dreams, Tenten thought. My two greatest dreams are to meet Lady Tsunade and to... Fine, Naruto sighed, interrupting her thoughts, if it means so much to Buns. Don't call M-. Uzumaki Kushina, Naruto stated. Tenten stood stock still, eyes glued to Naruto. For a second there was nothing. Then in a split second, Tenten was on him, groping at his waist, running hands over his skin. It would have been enjoyable had she slowed down a bit. Where is it? She cried. Please let me see it, just once. Naruto was in a daze, having been knocked off his feet, while Dustin and Mizuki stifled laughs watching Tenten's hands fly in a blur across his body. After a few moments, Dustin decided it was best to end this. Tenten, he called, no fornicating at the counter. Mizuki laughed outright as he lifted Naruto from the ground to his feet, while Tenten was on the far side of the wall, eyes averted, blushing a shade of red previously unknown to man. I am sorry, she said after a while, it's just, I really look up to your mother, she's one of my biggest heroes. Naruto blinked. His mother was one of this girl's heroes? He had heard all about his mother's many battles from Hanta, but to hear this girl looked up to her so much, was there something he was missing from the equation? Why, he asked, I know she fought and protected the leaf, but so did many others. Why is Kasan one of your greatest heroes? Tenten smiled brightly. She was one of the strongest kunoichi in history, on par with her one-time teacher Tsunade of the Sannin. Tenten's eyes glittered as she reached behind the counter and pulled out a scroll, opening it before him. It was a detailed painting of his mother, her naginata pointed high as water swirled about her form. Uzumaki Kushina, the Akozumaki no Yaiba, I want to be like her, Tenten laughed. Naruto looked over the painting. It was well done, but he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed, as his mother probably posed for this. I had two goals in life other than becoming a great kunoichi, she said. One is to meet Tsunade of the Sannin, and the other is to see with my own eyes the Yuzabir do. Naruto smiled. The way she said it, how he could deny her? He formed a small crystal of sugar and pricked his thumb. He reached to his side, his middle finger catching on the ring of one of the cylindrical things on his hip. As it rolled out, it was revealed to be a scroll as he ran his thumb against the seal array. In a puff, Naruto stood before her, his mother's fabled blade clutched firmly in his hand. For a second Tenten blushed at the sight. Then it hit her, and she was at his side, eyes darting hungrily over the legendary blade. There was a winding pattern along the blade, starting at the tip. It looked as if a swirling serpent had coiled about the blade, leaving its mark. Tenten stood on her toes and ran her hand across the blade, finding the pattern to be slightly embedded into the blade itself. The blade was about 3 feet long, it curved greatly at the tip, and it was about 1.5 inches wide at the base, and 2 inches near the tip. The cross guard was of faded bronze, yet still held a peculiar shine, and was adorned with the same spiraling pattern. It was oval-shaped, Tenten noted, to help absorb the shock of heavy blows. It had a 7-foot shaft made of strong wood reinforced with lightweight bronze. It too was covered in swirling patterns all the way to the end, which had a weighted bronze spike. Tenten spent the next 10 minutes running her hands all along the blade, and the shaft, inspecting it for any imperfections and finding none. It was truly a work of art. After a while, she worked up the courage to ask Naruto if she could perhaps try it out. I'm sorry, Tenten, he replied. It can only be wielded by one of my clan. I haven't even used it yet. I don't know how to fight with a naginata. Tenten was disappointed before she looked up, eyes burning with determination. Well then, there is only one solution to this. Mizuki, who believed she was offering to train Naruto, smiled. Great idea, Tenten. I am glad I have your support, sensei. Tenten smiled. Uzumaki, you are just going to have to marry me. You could have heard a pin drop, as Naruto's sucker fell from his mouth before he caught it once more. Dustin once more found it funny, while Mizuki was flabbergasted that he had just inadvertently supported the motion. Wase again, I think I got some crazy stuck in my ear, Naruto asked. I said you'll have to marry me, Tenten replied. It's my only chance to use that blade. Besides, I doubt you have any other prospective brides. Hey, Naruto yelled, I'll have you know the ladies dig my sweet disposition. Please, Tenten scoffed. If not for me, you'd still look like a creepy stalker. How can you be a part of my clan if you belittle our traditions? Naruto whined. Tenten smiled mischievously before sauntering over to his side. Pressing her body into his, she whispered, You'll just have to teach me all about them. Tenten, Dustin called, no seducing the customers. You're no fun, Tenten pouted before turning back to Naruto. You will meet me here every day after your team training. I won't have this blade sit in a scroll like some collector's item. Yes, ma'am, he gulped red-faced. So obedient, the girl laughed as she walked back behind the counter. I'll be an Uzumaki yet. After some quick goodbyes with Dustin, in which Mizuki paid for Naruto's new clothing, teacher and student left the shop. Naruto had placed the Naginata back in its scroll and was still shocked by all that had happened in the store. In the end, he could only think of one thing to say as they walked down the market road. Women are scary. You don't know the half of it, Mizuki laughed. Sarutobi Hiruzen sat in his elevated seat in the council chambers. The chambers could be found exactly one story below the Kage Tower, for privacy's sake. It was a circular room with 3 ascending rows of seating. The first row was various guilds of Konoha, the Merchants Guild, Blacksmiths Guild, and Chefs Guild being the largest. The second row was reserved for civilian council men and women, 6 in number, representing the 6 districts of Konoha, and then there was the top row. Reserved for the clan heads, the top row stood above all except the seat of the Hokage. To either side of him were his advisors Yuditane Koharu and Mitokado Hamura. Hiruzen sat quietly as the Blacksmiths Guild leader, Dustin, finished up his request for higher quality metals to be shipped into Konoha. The council was about to close out for the day when he cleared his throat, gaining the attention of the assembly. I have good news for Konoha, he started, releasing a breath of smoke. Today we may have earned a new summon contract for our village. The civilian councilmen and women were happy as new summons meant more protection for them, as well as prestige for their village. The clan heads were interested in the type of summons they were dealing with, and the uses it could have in village defense. What summon is it, Hokage-sama? Asked Inuzuka-tsum. One I am sure you are all familiar with, he said, as well as the name attached to the summon itself. This confused many as there were not many free contracts running around in the village, the only known free contract being Meitogai's turtles. Even the summoning contracts were exceedingly rare, and to find a well-known holder willing to join their village was a wonderful thing. The clan heads present racked their brains to come up with any well-known contract holders who would have reason to join Konoha, not finding anything. The Tiger Clan contract holder will call upon the Tiger Boss summoned tomorrow morning at Training Ground 3, to ask for their loyalty to Konoha. Some gasped as many of the clan heads were wearing shocked faces, as well as the civilian council members. Kushina was well known throughout the village. She was a kind if not brash young woman, and was envied for her beauty and her close relationship with the Hokage. Hokage-sama, that contract belonged to Tsum started. Yes, he said, your teammate Uzumaki Kushina. It just so happens her son returned to the village today and wishes to join our ranks. Kushina-chan didn't have a son, Hokage-sama, Tsum said. On the contrary, Hiruzen sighed, she gave birth to a son just before her death the night of the Kyuubi attack. I am surprised none of you realized it. After all, he shares his mother's name. This incited a riot in the chambers. A few of the civilians were shouting in outrage, as the clan heads wanted to know why they were not informed of his lineage. The only silent one was Dustin, as he had already learned of the boy's lineage. There is no way that thing can be Kushina-sama's son, shouted one civilian. It's bad enough you gave it her name, shouted one, end this farce. Silence. Hiruzen bellowed, smoke wafting from his mouth. I will not have a hero of this village spoken of as such. For too long you have belittled his sacrifice, and that of his mother. This is a shinobi matter. All those of civilian rank vacate the council chambers. The room quieted as the civilians left, visibly disgruntled by the insinuation that the demon was the son of their hero. Once that was done, the council room was silent for a moment, none of the clan heads knowing how to address this until finally Tsum spoke up. Why was she started, were we not informed? It was his father's wish that his heritage be kept a secret should Kushina perish. Frankly, I am surprised no one drew conclusions. That is because you told us you named him in her memory, Nara Shikaku, Nara clan head stated lazily. That'll teach me to trust the words of my leader. Who is the boy's father, though I can guess? Hiruzen chuckled. You could say that the Kyuubi's defeat was a family affair. That struck a chord with the council. No one had expected that except. I knew it! Some yelled. She kept telling me there was nothing between them, but I knew. She smelt of him constantly. Indeed, Hiruzen stated calmly. At any rate, he knows of his heritage and has gained his father's bloodline. Once more the clan heads were surprised, all but Hyuga Hayashi and Aburame Shibi, who knew much of their former teammates' bloodline. It had been Minato's bloodline that had given Shibi the ability to push past his bounds as a bug user, and claim the title of clan head. He had also been the one to point out Hayashi's future wife, the shy little branch family Hyuga girl who followed him around the compound. The Hokage did not mention his mother's bloodline. It was a clan secret, and would remain known only to the Hokage. What was this bloodline? Asked Shikaku. Sugar manipulation, Hiruzen stated. Minato never gave it a name, but Naruto calls it sweet release. It gives him control of sugar in all forms. It is deceptively dangerous. Yes, Hayashi stated. Minato only ever used it during stealth missions, quickly dispatching enemies by overloading their blood with sugar. Naruto has found many other uses, Hiruzen stated happily. He has his father's work ethic, and his mother's wandering mind. Many of the techniques are not very practical for battle, but the others are extremely useful. It sounds pretty useful to me already, laughed one Akimichi Choza. He should be given clan status, stated Sim. If only for his mother's name. I have been looking for a way to help the boy. My bid for adoption was rejected. This could be the only way. I would love nothing more than to give him all that he had coming to him for his service to this village, Hiruzen sighed. But the civilian side of the council has far more power than they should at the moment. Any attempt to help him would be shot down. This is a shinobi village, Hokage-sama, Shibi spoke. It stands to reason that we should not have to bow to the will of the civilian populace in matters of village protection. The Hokage sighed. Sadly, after Minato's death and my hospitalization from injuries during the attack, the more ambitious of our civilian populace seized more power than their station entails. Due to the death of the Kage, the highest power in the village were my advisors. They were busy getting the village back on its feet, leaving the council to its own devices. A mistake we regret every day, Koharu spoke. They have no place meddling in shinobi affairs. There is good news though, the Hokage spoke. Their votes are being influenced by an outside source. Money meant to be going to the improvement of Konoha is being funneled someplace else, I believe. He paused, sitting stock still as his eyes scanned the room looking for anything amiss. He almost dismissed it as paranoia when he noticed a shadow near the ceiling that was darker than most. He sighed, feigning ignorance. As he settled back into his chair, he began to speak. Shikaku ceiling 8 o'clock. The lazy Nara flashed through a set of 3-hand seals as his shadow shot up the wall at insane speeds. There was a soft gurgle before a black-clad figure was tossed into the center of the council chamber. He looked to be an Umbu member, and the illusion would have been complete if not for the symbol on his blank white mask. Danzo and his root agents manipulated the council in order to gain more power in village matters, Sarutobi stated. Why can we not just arrest him? Some growled. Undermining village security is tantamount to treason. He is good at covering his tracks, Hamura stated. We have yet to make any connections between him and the council. Even the root agent before us cannot be interrogated due to the seal on their tongues. We have no way to pin anything on him. But we are working on it, Koharu smiled. Even now we have many eyes and ears in the village waiting for one of his people to slip up. There is one last thing that must be brought to your attention, Hiruzen stated, and it's a good thing that we removed our little bug beforehand, as this is the most sensitive information you will be given tonight. The council was thoroughly intrigued. Even Shikaku was paying the Hokage his undivided attention. They all had the same thoughts on their mind. What could be more sensitive information than the knowledge of their late Hokage's son? I must begin with Kumo's attempted kidnapping of the Hyuga heiress, the Hokage said, noting Hayashi's silent anger at the subject. That night not only was the heiress targeted but an unmarked branch family child as well. My niece, Hayashi growled. Her mother was my wife's sister. The woman was stabbed, and her child taken by a second Kumo shinobi. That is what you were led to believe, Hiruzen said, much to the council's shock. But your sister-in-law and niece still live. My Umbu captured the second Kumo shinobi, who turned out to be the daimyo's cousin. When they asked for your head, Hayashi, we threatened to give them his. Why is all this such sensitive information? Asked the head of the Yamanaka clan, Inoichi. Sure, it is a surprise, but hardly village secret material. The old Hokage chuckled. Hayashi, who is the father of your niece? The Hyuga clan head looked thoughtful for a moment, racking his brain for the answer and coming up with nothing. This unnerved him. They had been working on mending the rift in his clan, but if this was any indication, they had a long way to go. I am sorry to say I do not know, Hokage-sama. He sighed forlornly. You see, Hiruzen began, About 4 years ago, the branch family of the Hyuga was quite desperate to be free of the main family's tyranny. Hayashi sunk slightly into his chair. His clan's barbaric practices were no secret to the village. They were frowned upon, but most turned a blind eye to the noble clan's ignoble acts. Stand tall, Hayashi, Hiruzen chided. You have progressed by leaps and bounds in this area. It won't be long before the families are merged. As I was saying, due to extenuating circumstances, they were under the impression that a certain individual could be used to give birth to a new bloodline and a new clan. I trust you all know what is speculated to be the source of most bloodlines, correct? Yes, Hokage-sama, Tsum replied. It is believed that long ago pacts were made with summon animals, and… Tsum's hand went up to her mouth as she gasped, shaking her head slightly. Hiruzen motioned for her to continue as realization dawned on the rest of the council. Demon, she breathed. Yes, the aging Hokage sighed. The father of Hayashi's young niece, Hyuga Amaya, is none other than our own Uzumaki Naruto. A pregnant silence fell over the council chamber, as everyone taking a moment to process the information. Once again, no one really knew how to respond to the information, though they were all very thankful the civilians had vacated the council chambers. Hokage-sama, Koharu spoke tentatively. What if the child both parents already had a bloodline? Did they cancel each other out, or was one dominated? Neither. The Hokage chuckled at their shocked faces. She bears both the Byakugan and the sweet release bloodlines. Impossible, Hayashi spoke. Two bloodlines cannot coexist in one body. That is where you are wrong, he stated calmly. You see, there are 3 types of bloodlines. The ones that are directly linked to the body, such as the Kagaya clan's dead bone pulse. Those linked to the person's chakra, such as the dust release bloodline exhibited by the current Setsukichi. Then there are dojutsu such as the Sharingan or the Byakugan. We have found that any one body can only carry one bloodline of each type. Meaning she has one chakra-based bloodline and one eye-based. Some laughed. If they were going for pedigree, they could have tried to fit a third in there. Hiruzen chuckled as well, sharing a look with Tsum. She knew and apparently found it hilarious. Who would have thought that the bane of Konoha would be the start of a clan that held 3 powerful bloodlines? The civilian council would have a fit when they found out. What of my niece? Hayashi asked. Where is she and her mother? They are both safe, living at an undisclosed location in the village. Hiruzen stated, though her mother is not in good condition, her injury left her weak, and we are not sure how much longer she has left. Hayashi, I must ask that you not approach them. They are under my protection. Things are better in your clan, but not so well as to keep Amaya safe from being branded. Hayashi nodded. They were still pushing to abolish the caged bird seal, but there were far too many holdouts on the Hyuga Council. Councils, Hayashi scoffed inwardly. It seems they are always doing more harm than good. When I deem Naruto ready, or in the event of her mother's death, I will allow him to meet Amaya. The old man said. He will not, however, be allowed to claim her as his until he is strong enough to carry his own name. This meeting is closed. Remember, do not speak of anything you have heard here today, and keep your eyes and ears open. Change is coming to this village, and it will not come easy. Amai. Naruto let out a yawn as he stretched his morning aches away. He staggered into the den clad only in a pair of black pajama bottoms. He moved to the window, and throwing it open, he felt the warm morning breeze against his chest, the wind mixed with the smell of the peppermint plants that sat outside the window. As the sharp scent helped to wake him, he gazed out at his father's face. He felt like they were both there with him. His mother wrapping him in a loving embrace, as his father looked on with pride. I'll make you proud, he said as he watered the small window boxes. After taking one last deep breath, he closed the window and headed for the shower, after which he got dressed. He put on a forest green version of the clothes that Tenten had chosen for him. He had it in a few colors for variety, as well as situational uses. He checked the clock. 10 in the morning. He had a few hours before his first team meeting. Heading into his small kitchen, he picked up a bowl and a box of corn flakes as well as the milk carton from the fridge. He poured himself a bowl along with his milk before reaching into the cabinet for the sugar. Using this chance to practice his bloodline, he manipulated a strand of sugar into his bowl. He moved to place the sugar back into the cabinet, but stopped, and with a shrug he made a quick motion with his hand as nearly a cup of sugar landed on his corn flakes. Grinning like mad, he took his bowl, spoon in hand, into the kitchen. He was about to take a bite when a voice interrupted him. You have a problem, you know that? So do you, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto laughed, but do I point out your chronic masturbation constantly? Yes, the masked shinobi stated as he leaned against the wall near the door. You keep saying I will go blind in one eye. Well, you will, Naruto said smugly before digging into his cereal. And you would be dead of sugar overload if not for your bloodline, Kakashi said. Too bad for you, Naruto said between bites. There is no bloodline for porn addicts. Once again your lighting quick what leaves me speechless, Kakashi deadpanned. Hurry and finish your breakfast, you were due to demonstrate your summoning an hour ago. Naruto's mouth hung open as he dashed into the kitchen to clean his bowl. Why the hell wasn't I informed? Well, I was supposed to come get you this morning, Kakashi drawled, but I got caught up saving orphans from a burning building. Whatever, Naruto said, let's just get going. People are going to think I am becoming you. What's so bad about that? You really don't want me to get started on that subject, Naruto said. Kakashi shrugged and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. In a swirl of leaves they were gone. Am I? The Hokage sighed as the civilian part of the council raved about how disrespectful it was to keep them waiting. The clan heads took it in stride after hearing who it was that was sent to get the boy. He couldn't be blamed for being late. The civilians had reached a fever pitch and were about to all just up and leave when a light breeze picked up and in a swirl of leaves Naruto and Kakashi appeared. It had been a while since many of the clan heads and civilians had seen the boy, and while the civilians immediately dismissed his appearance, the shinobi were gaping in shock. He looked just like his father. A few of them were beating themselves over the head for missing it, while others were smirking as their thoughts were validated. He was an image of his father and mother, right down to the ever-present lollipop and that grin that just screamed mischief. Sorry we were late, Kakashi started, you see on our way here. Stoic Kakashi, Hiruzen said, Naruto how are you? Good as can be Aji-san, Naruto laughed, can't wait to do this thing. Well then, he laughed, begin when you are ready, just wait for. Naruto had already begun hand signs and before the Hokage could do a thing to stop him he slammed his hand on the ground with a cry of, Kuchios no Justu. A poof of smoke-black striped tiger stood before them, though he was less than impressive. He stood just shy of Naruto's mid-thigh, being that he was still in adolescence. Despite its young age, it had come into its full coat which was rich rust orange with deep ebony stripes, its belly was a pristine white. On its shoulders and haunches were harnesses that looked like folded wings of gleaming steel. Ha! Laughed one civilian, it seems that boy can't summon anything but kittens. Yes, another said, this is a waste of time. The tiger growled as its muscles tensed. There was a sound like a sword leaving its sheath, as the four wing-like structures on its body unfolded. On either side of him were 2-foot-long double-edged curved blades. They looked very much like wings. They gleamed in the morning sun, as the beast growled low. I would advise you to keep your mouth shut, Naruto growled. Saku, like all tigers, is a very proud creature. To insult him will not end well. The civilian who spoke first was livid. He was about to tell him off when the Hokage sent the civilian side a glare fueled with killing intent. They simmered down quickly as the Hokage took the time to address Naruto. You do know, Naruto, that you must call the boss summon in order to become a genin? Yes, I do, Aji-san, Naruto said as some of the civilians snorted in disgust at his familiarity with the Hokage. It's just like I said, tigers are proud. If I summon the boss unexpectedly outside of a battle situation, I could get in a lot of trouble. The shinobi in attendance nodded. It was well known that many summons were particular about their summoners. It was best to stay in their good graces. A few of the civilians scoffed, murmuring about how the beasts should just listen to their masters. I take it you want me to let Muko-sama know you are going to be summoning him today? Saku asked. Could you, Saku? Naruto replied. I had a request of him. My ascension to genin is on the line. Sure, but next time you call me had better be for something more exciting, the tiger said grumpily. You're my personal summon, Saku, Naruto laughed. You'll see far more action than the rest of your clan. You keep saying that, the tiger said as it disappeared with a poof. What did you mean by personal summon, Uzumaki-san? Asked Shibi. Naruto opened his mouth to reply when his eyes fell upon Shibi. He paused before something seemed to click in his head. Are you related to Shino? I am his father, the man stated. Naruto's mouth made an O before he smiled again. Do you like boysenberry too? Shino says it's good, but the flavor takes some getting used to, I think. Some laughed. Try to stay on topic, boy. Oh, Naruto said, right, well, Saku is my personal summon. He was the first tiger I was able to summon. He is easier for me to summon than others, and if I don't have any specific tiger in mind when I summon, he will always appear. Interesting, Shibi replied. Quite, Naruto said. Indeed, Shibi followed. Most certainly, the boy added. Uzumaki-san, don't you think you should get to the summoning? Hayashi asked. Oh yeah, Naruto said, I'll get right on that. Hey, do you know Hina? My daughter, Hayashi said with a small smile, now if you would. A few drop of blood and a few hand signs later, Naruto once more thrust his arm to the ground, crying out his summon. Smoke bellowed as a low growl echoed through the clearing. As the smoke cleared, the congregation came face to face with a very intimidating sight. From the smoke came a hulking figure. It stood at twice Naruto's own height, making it around 12 feet tall. It was a tiger, but not of any coloration the people had seen before. They likened it to a white tiger in reverse, whereon a normal tiger would be black was a silvery white, as where the orange and white would be was deep ebony. On its chest and back was plated armor that was the same silvery white as its stripes. On the edges of the back layer were 2 rows of 6 black spikes. On his shoulders he had silvery white armored plates, with the same black spikes branching back, and the folded wing-like protrusions in ebony. He sat on his hunches looking over the council gathered before him. The shinobi were in awe of its beauty and grace, as well as the aura of power it gave off. The civilians were outright intimidated by the thing, but mostly the fact that the demon could summon it on a whim. One of the braver, or stupider, of them decided to make a comment. "Is that all?" he scoffed despite his fear. "The toad boss is more than twice that size." That was the wrong thing to say, as the big cat lunged in the poor man's direction before a large wall of white sprung up between them, crystal-like spikes facing out toward the big cat. The creature snarled before rounding on its summoner, who stood arm outstretched. "Uzumaki Naruto," it growled, "you dare raise a hand to me? In defense of the people of my village Muko, I could do no less," he stated solemnly. The civilian council members were taken aback. The demon had just saved them? Those not in the direct line of the beast dismissed it as pure deception, but the one who had made the comment found himself very confused. "They hold you in open contempt," Muko said, his voice calmer than before, "yet you would risk your status as our summoner for them. Why?" Naruto sighed, as he dropped his hand, the barrier still in place. He looked down in thought before staring back up at his summons, a fierce determination in his eyes. "Konoha is my home," he stated. "It has always been and always will be. I will defend my home and all those who live within its walls with my very life." The tiger turned, walking off a short ways before pacing slightly, as if unsure what to do. The civilians scrambled behind the tiger, seeking safety next to the shinobi. Naruto stood in his place. The Hokage moved to speak to him, but he held a hand outward for silence. Muko had stopped. He turned towards his summoner, snarling as it stalked forward. Once more Sarutobi moved to defend Naruto from the beast that was showing ill intention. Once again Naruto held his hand out, sending him a look that said not to interfere. He was ready to face whatever was to come. He knew when he defended that council man what may happen. To rob the tiger of his revenge was punishable by death. Muko stopped right before Naruto. Rearing its head back, it let loose a deafening roar, its claws gleaming as it lashed out with one huge paw. Naruto closed his eyes, bracing for the impact. There was a crack as Naruto hazarded to open his eyes. He was greeted with the sight of Muko lying casually on the soft grass. In front of him was a large area of cracked and upturned earth. "Muko, he stammered. "There is no need to explain yourself, Naruto," the cat sighed. "You are as strong-willed as your mother before you, to stand up to the Tiger Lord himself. What is it you called me here for today?" "As I said, Konoha is my home. In order for me to become a ninja, I need you and the rest of your clan to swear allegiance to Konoha alongside me," Naruto said. "And why, I ask you, should I ally myself with a village that would insult my clan, and seems to despise my summoner for what he contains?" The tiger yawned. Naruto sighed. "They only hate because they do not understand." The civilians were about to cry out that they understood plenty, but were silenced by a glare from the assembled shinobi. "Elaborate," the tiger growled. "They are hurting," Naruto said. "When Kyuubi attacked, they all lost so much. In the aftermath, there was so much anger and sadness, and nowhere for it to go." Once again the civilians were confused, as the demon showed what seemed to be compassion for their loss. A demon would never feel remorse for those it killed, so why was his voice so pained? A few more resolute still held to the belief that it was all a play on their human emotions. Yet there were a few in the audience that found seeds of doubt sown in their hateful hearts, none more so than the man whose life he had saved. "They have taken a lot from me," Naruto said, holding back his tears, "but their loss was great as well. I understand that it may take a while for them to see I am not the demon, but I want to prove it to them, and being a ninja would go a long way towards that goal." The entire clearing was in thought, Muko on whether or not to ally himself with the village, the shinobi on what made the boy before them so strong, and the civilians on the sincerity of his words. The councilman who had bad-mouthed Muko was in deep thought. He felt completely conflicted. For so long he had seen the boy before him as the bane of the Leaf Village, something to be hated. Yet the boy saved his life at the risk of his own. His heart skipped a beat when the tiger nearly struck the boy down, but why? Why should he care if the demon went and got itself killed? Muko, having thought his answer through, noticed the look of trepidation on the man's face and smiled. the boy was right. Very well, Muko said, if Konoha is to be the home of the Uzumaki clan, then the tigers shall make it their home as well. Our two clans have been together far too long to sever ties here. The tigers shall be loyal to Konoha so long as the Uzumaki are welcome within its walls. We are all very happy to hear that, Muko-sama, the Hokage started. I hope. Wait, called a particularly bigoted villager, we should have a vote on whether they should be a part of Konoha or not. Many of the civilians nodded their assent, though some hesitated, not wanting the demon to gain any higher standing in the village. The Hokage and clan heads were indignant as Naruto looked crestfallen. That is preposterous, Hiruzen growled. Since our laws were set down by the first Hokage, there has never been such a vote. Hold on, Lord Hokage, Muko chuckled, let them have their vote. I would like to see if young Naruto's words ring true or not. Hiruzen noted that the big cat's eyes were subtly trained on the civilian council member who Naruto had saved from him. He realized what the summon was trying to do. It was a big risk, but the payoff was worth it. Naruto needed to know that his goal wasn't as lofty as it seemed, that it was easier than he thought to make people see him. Muko needed to know that he wasn't swearing his clan to a village that would not give them, or their summoner, the proper respect. Fine, he said, those in favor of the Tiger clan joining Konoha, stand to the left beside me. Those against, please stand over there next to Naruto's wall. The attending was split, the clan heads were all standing by their Hokage, as they understood the value of having a new summoned clan. Along with them stood the head of the Blacksmiths Guild, as the merchants and chefs guild leaders stood near the wall. This was where the problems lied. The council always came to a tie in matters regarding the young Kyuubi Jinchuriki. It was always a vote of 8 to 8, with 2 of the guild leaders siding with the civilians who always voted against. However, it seemed today was different. One man stood still in his original position, hands clenched as he fixed his gaze to the ground. The entire day had hit him hard, his beliefs were shaken, he knew what was right, but if he accepted it as true he would become nothing short of a monster. He had intentionally helped to ostracize a young boy who had done nothing wrong, he had helped to force those who aided him into bankruptcy. He would have to accept that he had deprived an innocent child of a loving family time and time again. Slowly, tentatively, he walked towards the gathering of shinobi, completely bypassing them as he stood before Naruto. Everyone watched with bated breath, as he was the only one yet to vote. My name is Haruno Shuji, the man said. I have sat on this council for years believing I have been doing what was right by my village and family. The civilian side smiled as they knew that Shuji had always sided with them in keeping the boy in his place. They eagerly anticipated his next words. I was wrong, he sighed. It took what happened today to make me realize what a huge mistake I was making. My brother was killed in the attack, and I foolishly blamed you for it. I am sure he would be ashamed of me if he were alive. Here I have been for nearly 14 years going out of my way to make life harder for a boy who only ever wanted acceptance, a boy who deserved far more than we could ever give. At this point those gathered were standing slack-jawed as Muko wore a self-satisfied smirk on his maw. Hiruzen smiled softly as he watched the man pour his heart out. He had said it many times, change was coming to Konoha. Please, Shuji said as he bowed at the waist, I hope that you can one day find it in your heart to forgive me, though I would understand if you don't. Naruto was without a doubt shocked. Never in his wildest dreams had he ever believed this would happen, at least not this soon. He reached a shaky hand forward and set it on the man's shoulder. Said man looked up expecting a scowl or a glare, but seeing only the bright smiling face of Uzumaki Naruto. It's okay, he laughed. If I were one to hold a grudge, would I even be here today? For what it's worth, Haruno-san, I am sorry about your brother. The man nodded as he smiled back at the blond boy, whipping at tears that had yet to fall from his eyes. He chuckled slightly to himself as he walked to stand next to the shinobi where Hiruzen stood with a proud smile. Well, Muko said, it would seem that the vote has been decided, and the Tiger clan shall be loyal to Konoha, though first and foremost the Uzumaki clan. Understandable, Muko-sama, Hiruzen stated, sending a scathing glare at the civilians who moved to object. This is a great day for Konoha. Indeed it is, Muko said. I shall inform my kin that roam the forests of Hai no Kuni. When needed we will fight for our new home. If I may, Shibi interjected, the other summoned clans that Konoha has tend to stay in their own lands unless summoned. My question would be, why do you choose to allow your kind to roam our lands? Muko said, very astute Abirame-san, we are indeed very different from other summoned clans. You see, while the toads are very powerful, frighteningly so, they are not very great in number. A few hundred, yes, but they would rather not hazard their young leaving the safety of Mount Maiboku. Shibi and the others nodded. The reasoning was sound. They had never thought about it from that perspective. They could not fault the toads for preserving their kind. As it was pointed out before, in size the toads have us tigers beat because I am the largest of us, Muko said. But while the Tiger clan is smaller in stature, it is greater in number. At our peak we were some 10,000 strong. On top of that, our kind can be found in almost every country. Having outgrown our own summoning realm, we expanded outward, creating homes where we could adapt. I see, Shubi said. So what you are saying is that by having you and Uzumaki-san on our side, we have forces hidden in almost every major country in the world? That brought a reaction from the people. The military applications were phenomenal. If there was ever any doubt on allowing Naruto to join, it was dispelled with that statement. Even the civilians could see how foolhardy it would be to reject him at this point. Yes, Muko laughed. You can hardly find a place where our kind could not move freely through the country unquestioned. Well, Hiruzen said, I believe that we have reached a conclusion here. Thank you all for attending, and I think we speak for all of us when I say, welcome, Tiger Clan, to Konoha. By Muko, Naruto said, I'll try not to need you for a while. You are barely a genin, Muko replied, you won't need my aid for a while yet. Then he was gone with a puff of rapidly dispersing smoke. Naruto looked to the sky as the civilians trudged up the path, and the shinobi left via Shunshin, or just leaping into the surrounding foliage. It had to be at least noontime for his first team meeting. Come to think of it, he hadn't gotten the name of his new sensei. He shrugged before smirking slightly. He placed his hands in a ram's seal. He began his technique. Clear crystals began to creep up his form, inching there up until he was completely covered. Then they cracked and exploded outward into a fine spray of sugary mist which blew away with the breeze. Naruto nowhere to be found. Who taught him Shunshin? The Hokage questioned. Amai. The classroom was once more abuzz with students chatting animatedly about the missions they thought they would take, and the battles they would win. Iruka and Mizuki sat at the desk as the silver-haired Chunin regaled his friend with the story of his and Naruto's trip to the weapon shop. A few of the students were sitting quietly, or sleeping, but most were conversing with their neighbors, or at least trying to, in the case of Sasuke's fangirls, who all tried at least once to talk to the stoic boy. Shino and Hinata spoke sedately, both expressing their wonder at where their friend may be, that is until a dusty cloud of white smoke blew in from a nearby window. Always one to make a scene, isn't he? Shino asked in his normal tone. Yes, Hinata giggled, but that's what makes him who he is. Indeed. The cloud gathered before swirling about, gathering at the floor as it formed a pillar of crystals that once more shattered to dust, leaving a grinning Naruto in its place. Heya! He laughed as the sugar disappeared into his sleeves. He reached into his bag, finding a bag full of strawberry candies individually wrapped. He tossed the bag to Mizuki, who smiled graciously at the whisker-marked boy. Show off. Sasuke scoffed, as Naruto took note of his blue tongue, happy that he was enjoying his gift. You're just jealous that I have style, Naruto called. Jealous of you, Sasuke chuckled. Your brains must be made of cotton candy for you to come up with that nonsense. Cotton candy brains, Naruto repeated. Did you just make a joke? So what if I did? The Uchiha replied. Naruto's response was to run frantically, run over to Shino, pull his jacket open, and toss himself inside. The world is ending, Shino, shield me with your surprisingly ample coat space, he cried. The class got a chuckle out of the scene as Sasuke looked slightly red from embarrassment as he took his seat. Shino had extracted Naruto from his jacket and coaxed a good quarter of his colony off the boy whose chakra they so loved. When asked why he had hidden in Shino's jacket was, with the way Hinata-chan is growing, there is no room in hers for me. That had earned him a smack from a rapidly heating Hyuga, who wasn't sure if that was a compliment or not. Naruto informed his friends of what had happened that morning, including his encounter with their fathers. Shino, you look a lot like your dad, Naruto stated, and Hinata looks nothing like hers. She must have gotten her looks from her mother. Actually, Hinata said, my sister looks like my mother. I look more like my aunt. Your aunt must have been quite the looker then, huh, Hinata? Naruto laughed. Hinata's response was to squeak slightly, then go beet red as Shino asked, Naruto, if you could please refrain from causing her to revert to her old self? What did I do? He asked. The big user sighed at his friend's obliviousness. He would have continued had it not been for the sudden opening of the door. The woman who walked in left many of the males in the classroom gaping with drool leaking from their mouths. She was by all accounts gorgeous. She had long, slightly unruly black hair that perfectly accented her deep crimson eyes. She wore a battle dress that seemed to be comprised of many large thick wraps piled atop each other, along with a mesh undershirt, which seemed to have only one long red sleeve on her right arm. Her hands were wrapped up in bandages that traveled up to her mid-forearm, leaving only her fingers uncovered. The dress cut off at her mid-thigh, showing off her long legs, and complementing her curvy figure. Teammate? She asked, prompting Shino, Naruto, and Hinata to stand. Come with me. Amai. The woman who they now knew as Yuhi Kurenai had led them from the school towards the training grounds. They walked in relative silence as Shino and Hinata positioned themselves on either side of Naruto, who did an admirable job of ignoring the glares and whispers of the surrounding villagers. Neither of his friends knew the reason behind the villagers' scorn for their friend, but had resolved to wait until he told them himself. Shino had drawn a few conclusions on his own from what he heard on the streets, but did not want to make any assumptions until he knew for sure. As they walked, they came across a particularly nasty group of villagers, drunks by the looks of it, who glared threateningly at Naruto as they slurred obscenities under their breaths. That was when the group got their first surprise of the day. Kurenai sent the group a scathing glare the three teens could have sworn her eyes were aglow. The glare was laced with killing intent that sent the drunks scurrying away. Kurenai turned back, locking eyes with Naruto, and smiled. Naruto decided then that he liked his new sensei. She led them to an empty training ground. It was heavily wooded and teeming with wildlife. As they continued their trek, Shino noted that this was one of the larger training grounds, most suitable for a tracking team. They came upon a clearing with a small pool at the base of a waterfall, at which point Kurenai took a seat with her back facing the pool. She motioned for the others to sit, which they did, before she addressed them. Okay, she began, as I said, I am Yuhi Kurenai and I will be your sensei for the foreseeable future. I think it is best that we begin by getting to know a little about each other. I'll start. I guess what I should say first is that I am a newly promoted jonin, and as such am new to this, so bear with me. I like creating and learning new genjutsu, and reading. I dislike egotistical males, and people who believe kunoichi inherently weaker than shinobi. My dreams for the future are to live a happy life with my friends and loved ones, and to help you achieve your goals. Okay, you with the shades go first. Shino pushed his shades up on his nose before speaking in his normal tone. My name is Aburaim Shino. I like my friends and finding new bugs to breed for possible use by my clan. I dislike the way Naruto is viewed by the villagers, and people who kill insects needlessly as well as spiders. He coughed slightly at this point as he ran a finger on the collar of his jacket, a sign that Naruto and Hinata learned to interpret as embarrassment. My dream for the future is to take over as clan head, and to help my friends reach their goals. Kurenai nodded. From what she saw, they knew each other very well. The Hokage had informed her beforehand that her team were good friends. She was hoping that she wouldn't have to waste time on teamwork exercises and the like, seeing as her team already worked well together. Miss Hyuga, if you would? Kurenai asked. Hi, Hinata replied. My name is Hyuga Hinata. I like my friends, flower pressing, and baking on occasion. I dislike those that belittle others, and the villagers that hate Naruto-kun for no good reason. Kurenai smiled happily, knowing Naruto had two good friends on his side. She could never hate the boy for what he contained. She knew a bit about seals and would not give in to the bigotry of the village. My dream for the future is to prove myself to my clan and one day work up the courage to confess my feelings to. Hinata sent a quick glance at Naruto, who was watching with rapt attention, eager to know who his longtime friend had a crush on. Shino once more sighed into his jacket, knowing it would take a strike to the head with a bat labeled Naruto x Hinata for him to get the picture. Kurenai noticed the look she sent the boy and resolved to help the girl gain the confidence needed to tell him, but before that she needed to make sure said boy didn't say something stupid. Whiskers, she said, you're next. Naruto blinked as he lost his train of thought. He was going to ask Hinata something. Oh well. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I like all kinds of candies, my two best friends, and I guess I am okay with this crazy girl named Tenten. Naruto shrugged at this point as he didn't know the girl all that well, but she was teaching him how to use his mother's Naginata, so he felt he had to mention her. I like my Ka-san, who runs the village orphanage, because she took care of me when no one would, and I like my tiger summons since they are really fun to train and fight with. I dislike people who are too stubborn to change, and those who don't stand up for their own beliefs. My dreams for the future are to make everyone acknowledge that I am me, and to make my parents proud. Kurenai smiled. He turned out pretty well considering the environment in which he grew up. She made a mental note to stop by the orphanage and speak to the matron, both to thank her and learn a bit more about her new student. She was also a bit surprised to hear his last statement. She had thought he was an orphan from birth, so that would also warrant some looking into. Okay team, normally there is a second test needed for you to become full genin, but it is mostly based on teamwork, which I have been assured you already have. At her student's nod she continued, our team is to be a tracking and recon type. Our missions will mostly focus on our team's natural tracking skill, and occasionally work in tandem with other teams as recon units in siege-based missions against a fortified enemy. That being said, I still need to test your skill in this area, so I want you to choose one of the graduating teams and observe their test, which should be taking place today. When you have completed this test, return here to report what happened. Dismissed. Yes, ma'am. They spoke in tandem before departing. Am I? Naruto, Hinata, and Shino sat crouched upon the limbs of a tree that sat deep into the forest surrounding Training Ground 3 where Team 7 could be found taking their test. They had watched as Kiba failed miserably at fighting his Jonin sensei, which Shino remarked was foolhardy due to the gap in strength and experience. Haruno Sakura, as Hinata recognized her, was next to fall to a genjutsu which left her incapacitated. Sasuke arguably did the best of the three but still fell short of getting the bells at Kakashi's waist. "They'll never beat Kakashi-sensei," Naruto whispered, "and all the time I have trained with him I never landed a hit he didn't let me." Shino nodded absent-mindedly, noting how easily his friend could switch from his light, bubbly persona to serious when needed. "Indeed," Shino replied, "there has never once been a two-man genin squad in Konoha's history. There is more to this test." "They all failed individually," Hinata stated. "None of them are any match for a jonin, but—" "I see what you are getting at, Hinata-chan," Naruto smiled. "I think Kiba gets it too." Sure enough, Kiba was talking in hushed tones with Sasuke as he dug the Uchiha from his earthen prison. The smirk that the boy adopted was not missed by the three of them. They kept watching as the two of them found Sakura, who immediately saw the logic in the teamwork idea, and berated herself for not seeing it sooner. They formulated a plan that would have worked if their opponent was anything but an elite ninja of the village. Sasuke had engaged him in hand-to-hand while Kiba moved around and attacked from behind with his partner Akamaru. Meanwhile, Sakura cast a minor genjutsu on herself as she made to steal the bells. She almost got them when a foot met her chest, sending her sprawling on the floor. Sasuke and Kiba dropped back to aid her while Kakashi looked on lazily. "It seems you three have realized the true goal of this exercise?" he asked. "Teamwork," Kiba growled. "There is no way we could take you down on our own." "Exactly," Kakashi said as he flipped a page in his book. "Konoha prides itself on its teamwork, and what is known as the Will of Fire. It embodies the strength and ferocity with which we all defend our home and our comrades. Now you still have time, so let's see what all of you can do." The three genin before him were slightly confused at that last part. Were they not already working together? The three in the trees, however, were slightly surprised that they had been found out. Naruto smirked as he watched Team 7 engage their sensei once more. Kakashi wanted a fight, he'd get one. "It would seem we are found out," Shino stated calmly. "What should we do?" Hinata asked. "Easy," Naruto laughed. "We help our friends on Team 7. Our mission parameters state that we are to observe only," Shino said. "Kakashi-sensei told me," Naruto said, "those who disobey the rules are trash, but those who don't take care of their comrades are lower than trash. They may not be in any real danger, but this enemy is still far more than they can handle." Shino gave it a moment of thought before his eyebrows rose ever so slightly, denoting an upturning of his lips below his jacket, a Shino smile, or as close to one as you could get. "Sometimes I wonder why I ever try and refute your choices in moments like this," he said in his normal tone. "It's just your nature to question things, Shino. I think you get it from your dad." Naruto laughed. "So what's the plan?" Hinata asked. Naruto adopted a thoughtful pose as he watched Sasuke perform a Katon Jutsu, and Kiba strike at Kakashi as he evaded. Sakura stood off to the back, cycling through sensory deprivation genjutsu she learned in the academy. Kakashi shrugged them off, but it still stalled him for a second each time. "We can't take him down directly. We would do best to slow him down so that Team 7 can move in for the kill," he stated. Shino nodded. They were not built to be a direct combat squad. Hinata was the best closed-quarters fighter on the team, with Naruto on backup with his summons and the more devious aspects of his bloodline. Shino was a mid-range fighter relying on his insects to weaken his opponent to the point of capture or defeat. "I think I have a plan," Naruto said. "Am I?" Sasuke grunted as he was ejected from the fight, landing a few yards away. He bounced on his back and flipped onto his feet. He was surprised when the Hyuga girl from his class leapt to his side in a ready stance for her clan's Juken fighting style. "What are you doing here?" he asked, more curious than anything. "My team and I have come to help you pass this test," she said seriously. "Keep fighting, force him to the tree line." "We never asked for your help," Sasuke said, but complied. Sasuke knew whose team the girl was on. If there was one person he could count on to surprise him, it was Uzumaki Naruto. They rushed Kakashi, who found himself hard-pressed to defend the combined onslaught. Blocking Sasuke's hits while dodging Hinata's chakra-laced strikes, it seemed she was quite adept in her clan fighting style. To make matters worse, if he tried to evade, he was met with a swirling mass of claws or bugs to his right, and a barrage of shuriken or gumballs of all things on his left. He backpedaled from his attackers, defending as well as he could. He knew it was a trap, but he wanted to see what the kids could come up with. Kakashi was surprised when he moved to take another step into the surrounding woods and found himself unable to move his feet. Looking down, he saw that the ground was coated in a sticky brown substance. Try as he might, he could not free himself from the sludge. In his occupied state, he failed to notice the advancing Hyuga, who in a few short moves incapacitated his arms. At that moment, Sasuke rushed forward and grabbed the bells, tossing them to his teammates who sat aloft in the trees. Kikai bugs swirled around Kakashi's form as crystals sprouted from the gooey substance, their points jutting at vital points on the Jonin's body. Capture complete, Shino stated calmly as he stepped from behind a tree. You guys really came in the nick of time, Kiba exclaimed before calming, not that we couldn't have done it ourselves. Of course not, Kiba, Naruto laughed, it just would have taken you all a few days longer. Why you? Good work, team, Kakashi stated, you all work together to accomplish the mission, Team 7 passes. Sakura cheered loudly while Kiba gave Sasuke a celebratory high five. Everyone was happy that they had passed, and Naruto and his team got ready to leave. Kiba was prompted by a barking Akamaru to inspect the brown liquid. He dipped his finger and then tentatively licked. Caramel? Good work, Naruto. Yes, good work, said a voice that caused them to freeze, as Kurenai melted out of a nearby tree. You disobeyed my orders. Naruto stepped forward. It was my idea. Naruto is not to blame. We all made the decision together, Shino stated. We'll accept any punishment you feel is necessary, Kurenai-sensei, Hinata said. There was silence for a moment before Kurenai laughed. Who said I was going to punish you? But you said, Naruto stuttered. You made a decision in a real-life situation, Kurenai stated. After observing the battle and seeing it going poorly for your comrades, you made the choice to intervene and had a plan of action. I would expect no less out in the field. You made the right choice. Naruto beamed at her, while Shino only relaxed slightly and Hinata smiled shyly at her new sensei's praise. Okay, we'll call it a day for now. Tomorrow we will start training and missions, so be ready, Kurenai called. Hi, sensei, they replied before heading out of the training ground, but not before releasing Kakashi from his confines. Kurenai bid her team farewell as she headed for her apartment, followed by Hinata, whose clan compound was in the same direction. Shino left after soliciting a few suckers off of Naruto, who afterwards began his trek home. It was around 6 or 7 when Naruto reached his apartment. It was also at that moment when he remembered one crucial aspect of his day. Buns! He cried, I am so dead. Kurenai smiled to herself as she walked to her apartment building. Having dropped Hinata off at her clan compound, she was alone as she walked the familiar path home. She was happy. Her team was very well rounded, and with her training and some experience, she was confident they would be some of the best shinobi out there. Her musings were cut short as stopped before the wide gates of the orphanage. Only now did she realize how often she passed the building during her day-to-day. Discarded toys and mud patches littered the yard, and a small swing set could be seen to the left side of the building. It looked, as it should, like a place. For a moment Kurenai decided to head inside, the words Naruto spoke during their team meeting still fresh in her mind. She walked to the front door, careful to not step on any toys on her way. With a few swift knocks and a short wait, the door opened to reveal a young woman of about 20 in a plain dress and apron. Her brown hair was a mess and she looked somewhat irate before schooling her features. Inside, Kurenai could see a few more toys strewn about and 1 or 2 children milling about in their night clothes. Hello, she said, how may I help you? I was hoping to speak to the matron, Kurenai replied. Are you looking to adopt? No, not so soon anyway, Kurenai replied with a slight blush. She had resolved to adopt if she couldn't have a child of her own, but that was not for a while longer. Then I am sorry, but it is late, and we are very busy getting the children ready for bed, the girl replied, moving to close the door. Kurenai placed a hand on it, effectively halting its movement, giving the woman a smile that sent chills down her spine. Now that was rather rude. It so happens that one of my students used to live here and I was hoping to learn more about him. Why yes, the girl laughed nervously. In that case I will get the matron right away, please take a seat inside. Kurenai nodded as she walked into the foyer, the young lady scurrying off down the hall. She took a seat on a small couch that was set against the wall. She smiled sadly as a few of the children walking about would stare at her. The girls would fiddle with their clothes and the boys would try their best to look tough, puffing out their chests and walking with heads held high. They were hoping she would take them home with her. It broke her heart. After a few minutes the children were all in bed, and the matron had finally appeared. She was an old woman, not as old as the Hokage, but no spring chicken. It was evident that she must have been a beauty when she was young. Her hair still held much of its color, being a rich dark brown, with a few gray strands here and there. She wore a smile on her face, a warm motherly smile that seemed to fit so well with her slight wrinkles and laugh lines. "Hello," she began. "I was told you were here about one of your students, a shinobi, yes?" "Yes," Kurenai replied. "So many of my young boys and girls go on to be shinobi," the matron sighed sadly. "I have outlived far too many of them. Who is your student, miss?" "Yuhi," Kurenai supplied, "and my student's name is Uzumaki Naruto." The matron gasped. "Naruto-kun made it?" "Yes," Kurenai replied, surprised. "He passed just fine and we begin training and missions tomorrow. I though he would have told you. When he introduced himself he said he thought of you as a mother to him." A pained look crossed the matron's face when Kurenai said that, further fueling the kunoichi's curiosity. "That boy," she said, her voice slightly shaken as she sat down next to Kurenai, "he doesn't know what it is to have a mother. All he had was me to fill that gap, and as a mother I would be a failure." "I don't understand," Kurenai said. "The matron of the orphanage not a good mother?" "He was a special case," the matron continued, tears brimming in her brown eyes. "I had many other children to look after. People would come in to adopt, see him, and leave straight away." Kurenai gasped. "I did what I thought was best," the old woman continued. "On nights that adoptions were to take place, I would hide him away and let my assistants handle the couples coming in." At this point tears were softly falling from her eyes. Kurenai was at a loss for words. "I gave him all the comfort I could. I bought him candies and held him, told him stories and played games. One night he asked me why he couldn't go meet the parents like the others." The matron took in a ragged breath, whipping at her tear with her sleeve. "How do you tell a child that the only home he has ever known doesn't want him?" Kurenai didn't know how to answer that question. She just sat there letting the words drift about in her head. "I wasn't a mother to him," the woman continued. "If I was, he would never have had to ask that question. A mother would have shown him all the love he deserved, but mine had to be split. I had to think of all the children in my care, not just him. I alienated him from the others by keeping him away from during adoption days. I did the same every year at the QB festival. By the time I realized what was happening, I couldn't mend the rift." She slammed a hand on the couch. "A mother should never be the source of her child's loneliness." A sigh escaped her mouth as she whipped the last few tears from her face. "I am not a mother, just a sad substitute for a boy who never got the chance to know the difference." "But he loves you," Kurenai stated, finally finding her voice. "And I love him," the matron replied, "but all the love I have could not fill the space of mother." Before Kurenai could reply, the front door opened to reveal the Hokage with two umbu flanking him, cat and dog, who had been pulled from retirement for this special mission. He entered the foyer, stopping before the matron and Kurenai, who both stood and bowed to their leader. "It's good to see you, Michiko-san," Sarutobi said. "And you as well, Hokage-sama," the newly named Michiko replied. "Miss Yuhi," the Sarutobi began, "what, may I ask, are you doing here?" "I wanted to learn more about one of my students," Kurenai replied, to which Sarutobi nodded. "I am afraid that I must intrude on your conversation then, as something urgent has come up." "Is there anything I can do to help, sir?" "I believe we have the situation under." "Hey, old man," came a small voice from behind the Hokage. "I'm not a situste dash that thing." "I assume the little one is the reason behind your visit?" the Michiko asked with a smile. "Yes," Sarutobi said, glancing at Kurenai. "This is Amaya," the voice interrupted as a small girl made herself known, peeking from behind the Hokage's robes. "Yuzum." "Amaya," scolded Sarutobi as he noticed the look of recognition on Kurenai's face. "What did I tell you about that?" The girl, who was previously hidden behind Sarutobi's robe, now stepped forward, a stern look on her young face. Kurenai gasped at what she saw. The girl looked to be about 5 or 6 years old. She was dressed in a simple light blue shirt and white shorts. Her skin was a very light tan, and her hair was the strangest shade of pale blue. It looked a lot like her student Hinata's in the front, and her facial features were oddly similar. However, where Hinata's hair was short all around, Amaya's was longer in the back and held into low ponytails that reached to the middle of the little girl's back. This startling resemblance to her student was not what caused Kurenai to gasp, though, but what had done it only served to intensify the semblance. The little girl, Amaya, had pale blue pupilless eyes, Hyuga eyes. "Ka-san always told me to be proud of my name," the little girl shouted. "Ka-san said Tu-san is a hero, and the strongest there is. My name is Uzumaki Amaya, it's the name Ka-san gave me, I won't be anything else." "Amaya, you have to understand," Sarutobi began, Yes, your Tusan is a hero, but as such people may try to use you to hurt him. A thoughtful expression crossed her features as she cupped her chin, causing Kurenai to chuckle despite the seriousness of the situation. She was just too cute. As of now no one knows you're his child, Sarutobi said, but a lot of bad guys are trying to get at him. Amaya nodded before asking, why doesn't he just beat the bad guys up? Sarutobi sighed, because there are a lot of them, and some of them are hiding so we have to help him look. Amaya smiled, so they're running away because they can't stand up to Tusan's awesome strength. The little girl punched the air a few times and Sarutobi placed a hand on her head. Yes, but once he finds them all he'll come here for you, I promise. The girl settled down but still smiled that bright smile that had melted both Sarutobi and Michiko's hearts when they saw it on the face of a whisker-marked blonde. I know he will, Amaya stated. Ka-san said so, and Ka-san never lies but. She sniffed as tears brimmed at her eyes. Ka-san's gone and my name is all I have of Tusan. Tsukimi's body finally gave out under the stress of labor followed by the stab wound. The poor girl lost her mother, and can't be allowed to see her father. Sarutobi thought ruefully. Michiko knelt before the child. I know it's hard, dear, but you have to be strong for your Tusan. I'll try, Amaya sniffed, but it's hard. Sarutobi reached into his robe, pulling out what looked to be a silver cord. He let what was in his palm drop while holding the cord. Hanging there was a small clear crystal. It branched of 3 ways, looking somewhat like a bird's foot without the 4th talon. Amaya stared at it wide-eyed, before reaching out, taking it gently from the Hokage and staring at it in her hand. Your Tusan made that, Sarutobi stated. Amaya held it to her chest, hugging it slightly to her small form. Tusan, it feels warm. She brightened. Old man, it beats like a heart. She must feel some connection through their bloodline. Naruto's sugar crystals have shown the capacity to absorb and hold chakra. It was thanks to those experiments that I got that very crystal, Sarutobi thought as he watched the crystal pulsate with a soft glow. As long as you have that, he'll always be with you, he said. I am sure it can make up for the loss of your name for now. Amaya nodded, still holding the necklace tightly. Now I am sure you are tired. It has been a long day. Michiko will lead you to your room, said the aging Hokage. Come along, dear, Michiko said, taking the girl's hand, who yawned cutely. Kurenai watched as the girl disappeared around the corner before turning to her leader, the look in her eyes demanding answers. Sarutobi sighed as he began to tell her all about Uzumaki Amaya, daughter of Uzumaki Naruto. However, after we finish, Sarutobi added, I have a request of you. Amai. Naruto sighed as he walked the path to his team's training ground. Tenten had been very peeved at having to wait for him to show up. As such, his training that day consisted of massaging the kunoichi's sore muscles from her day's training. She insisted that it was a form of training his fingers to be more nimble, and that it was a vital skill for a man to have. He continued until she was satisfied and allowed him to go on his way, but not before reminding him that being late next time would result in punishment instead of reward. When he asked how he had been rewarded, she went on about how being allowed to touch her as such was reward enough. Naruto wisely decided to go home in lieu of telling her how wrong she was. He made his way through the clearing to his team's meeting place. It was early, and the morning sun's rays were just shining through the tree tops. Their sensei was leaning against a tree near the water's edge as Hinata sat with her back to the same tree. Shino high on a branch near the other end of the clearing, observing a colony of wood ants. How do all of you get up so early? He asked. It isn't all that early, Naruto, Kurenai stated, finding it hard to meet the boy's eyes. You'll need to get used to it since we'll be meeting here every day unless I say otherwise. Naruto groaned slightly before straightening up. So, what are we doing today? Kurenai smiled and motioned for the group to gather before she began an overview of their training. Every morning we will run through formations and formation change in active battle situations. She said curtly, I want you to be prepared for any eventuality, and to be able to protect your teammates in any given situation. On top of that, we will practice proper formation for scouting and tracking missions, as well as protocol during said missions. So our main focus is as a tracking and recon unit? Shino asked. Correct, Kurenai replied. You were specifically chosen for your predisposition to these areas of shinobi life. Each of you has something to offer the team in that regard. Hinata has her Byakugan, you Shino have your bugs, and Naruto has enhanced senses and summons that can help with tracking missions. Shino nodded, seeing the logic in the choices made. He was happy that his skill set meshed well with that of his two friends. Following that, we will do individual training, in which you can work on anything you would like. I will, however, drop in to check your progress and see if there is anything I can help with. Directly following that, we will work on perfecting your combat as a team. After our daily training is complete, we will pick up a few simple missions and end our day with a quick review of our training. Any questions? Yes, Naruto stated. After a short moment, Kurenai sighed. What is it? When's lunch? He asked. Kurenai opened her mouth before closing it just as promptly, a slight blush coloring her features. I guess I forgot to include it. Kurenai-sensei, Hinata interjected, might I suggest we go for lunch after individual training? Kurenai schooled her features before sending a thankful smile to Hinata. Yes, that will work fine, Hinata, thank you. Hinata merely nodded. Now I am sure you all know the tree climbing technique, correct? The ebony-haired woman asked, receiving positive responses. Then let's begin. Kurenai leapt to the nearest branch above her, followed closely by her team. Let's start with a basic tracking formation, she stated. Naruto, take point. Your senses will play a key role in leading us to our target, as well as filling the role of our heavy hitter. On it, Naruto said as he rebounded off an adjacent tree into the lead position. Shino, you stay high on his right flank just at eye level. This will allow you to have an angle on our target, or any enemies we may encounter. You will be Naruto's primary support in direct conflict, Kurenai told him. A sound observation, Shino stated calmly as he moved into position. Hinata, I want you to stay about 3 yards behind Naruto, close enough to keep them in direct eyesight, as I want you to focus your Byakugan behind us unless told otherwise. In high danger environments you cover our back. I will do my best, Hinata replied. My position will be directly at Naruto's left flank, Kurenai stated. I am more suited for a support role, and that is what I will do since we won't be taking any truly dangerous missions anytime soon. The most we will probably do is hunting down civilian fugitives. I would only be needed as a support role in this situation. Now we will continue at this pace, and I will call out formation changes as we go. Move into position quickly and quietly, as proper formation can be the difference between life and death. For the next hour the group would run through the treetops, responding quickly to any formation change Kurenai called. Kurenai in turn would explain the significance of their position change and have them give scenarios in which it would be an advantageous change. Shino excelled in these drills due to his clan's focus on intellect during battle. Hinata in the same respect was able to answer fairly well when asked. Naruto, however, had trouble grasping the theoretical, causing a few of his active battle scenarios to veer into the realms of the strange. For the last time, Kurenai said, we will not be attacked by 5-year-olds, so you let them eat candy. Strategy will not work. It will too. I for one have been attacked by 5-year-olds on numerous occasions, Naruto said. That's because they know you as the candy guy, Naruto-kun, Hinata added. Exactly, as my teammates you must be ready to defend against full-scale toddler attack at any moment. Naruto smiled. It would almost make sense if it wasn't so absurd, Shino added, pushing up his glasses mid-leap. I think that is enough of this for today. Kurenai sighed as she rounded a tree and led the group back to the clearing. Amai. As individual training began, Kurenai insisted that the three of them work alone for this segment of their training unless a teammate is expressly needed. Hinata insisted on having the clearing near the spring. In fact, she was so resolute in her insistence that her teammates could not bring themselves to even question why. Shino had asked Kurenai about the use of genjutsu, something that ignited a fire in Kurenai's eyes. She had hoped that one of her students would take an interest in the more subtle of the shinobi arts. With Naruto's help, I have access to reserves of chakra that is unknown to my clan, Shino had stated. As you said, I fill more of a support role on our squad, and genjutsu would go a long way towards becoming more effective in my support role. Kurenai had immediately produced a training scroll of her own making, urging Shino off into the surrounding trees with the promise of coming by to help him later. Lastly, Naruto was led to a separate clearing by Kurenai, who had told him she had a special sort of training in store for him. Now Naruto, Kurenai began, what do you know of Fuinjutsu? The sealing arts, sensei? He replied. Yes, she said, it is a very complex art that requires years of study to master. They say Toussaint was a Fuinjutsu master, Naruto mused. I myself am only a novice compared to Yandame-sama, or even, Kurenai growls, Jiraiya of the Sannin. What does this all have to do with me, sensei, aside from the obvious? Naruto asked. Hokage-sama would like me to teach you the basics of sealing, Kurenai replied. He believes that you will find a way to use the skills in conjunction with your bloodline. With my bloodline, unbeknownst to Kurenai, that simple sentence had sparked a fire of invention in the young shinobi. However, before you learn anything about sealing, you need the proper foundation. Kurenai said, retrieving a brush, inkwell, and scroll from her pouch. For today you will practice your calligraphy. Your strokes must be precise with no splotches or discolored areas. With sealing, every brush stroke counts. A single flaw could mean disaster. Naruto nodded, though slightly peeved at the idea of spending his individual time working on calligraphy. Kurenai assured him that it would only be every other day that he worked on this, though, so he relented. Amai. Lunch was a small affair at a local barbecue. The most interesting thing being Naruto's insistence on ordering from the dessert menu. After a good 10 minutes of arguing, they had convinced the waitress that, yes, it was normal for him to eat a hot fudge sundae for lunch. On top of that, Naruto had unsealed a slew of ice cream toppings that accounted for more than half of the sundae's total mass by the time he was through. All chased down with a cool glass of chocolate milk. Isn't that a bit unhealthy? Kurenai questioned as Naruto was drowning a family of gummy bears in his chocolate sauce. We believed the same thing for a time, Shino answered, but were proven wrong. Naruto-kun eats more candy a day than I believe I have in a lifetime, Hinata added. My bloodline takes care of it, Naruto said. Besides, if I am ever caught without a medium for my skills, it helps to have copious amounts of sugar in my bloodstream. Kurenai looked surprised. You can pull sugar from blood? Naruto nods with a mouthful of ice cream. Then why not pull the sugar from an enemy's body? The ruby-eyed woman questioned. I can't, he answered simply. It would require a ridiculous amount of chakra control to achieve that effect without direct contact, and even then it would have to be on an open cut. Shino nodded. Yes, Hinata and I have gone over this with him before. Even pulling sugar from his own blood without an incision is out of his current reach. Naruto looked sullen for a moment. They say my father could do it. Naruto, Kurenai muttered, noticing his swiftly darkening mood. However, just as quickly his mood picked up as he gave his team a smile. I'll get it one day though, no worries. I'm sure you will, Naruto-kun. Hinata reassured him with a smile and a slight blush. He is good at putting up a front, but I can tell it's still bothering him. Kurenai inwardly sighed. How can you blame the kid when he has such a legacy to live up to? Amai. After their meal, they made their way back to the training ground where they once more sat before their sensei. Alright, Kurenai began. Now for the final segment of today's training before we start on missions. Active battle teamwork training. Kurenai was simply beaming at her team, eyes shining with unbidden mirth. It was unnerving to say the least. After a few tense moments of silence, and one or two awkward coughs, Naruto spoke up. Kurenai-sensei wa. Begin! She cried, charging forward. Naruto jumped into a ready stance, but was instead saved by a wave of insects that caused Kurenai to jump back a few feet. A moment later, Shino and Hinata were at his side. Hinata's Byakugan eyes blazing. She stood in a modified Juken stance, body at an angle with one palm facing forward and the other open behind her at hip level. Shino stood arms raised as seemingly millions of Kikai bugs swarmed around him. Kurenai smirked before her form wavered and she disappeared like a mirage. We must find her, Shino stated. Leaving her to her own devices for too long would only play us into her hand. You see anything, Hinata? Naruto asked. Hinata took a moment to focus before she perked up. She is about 100 yards due east, hiding under a genjutsu. Good work, Hinata, Naruto said, sniffing the air. I have her scent as well. Tracking formation 1, we need to be wary of any traps she may be trying to set. They took the trees, making quick time to their teacher's location before Hinata called the team's attention. There is a genjutsu set on this part of the forest, she stated. I can't tell what it is meant to do though. Naruto sniffed the air for a moment before pointing to the left. Her scent goes that way, but we have been traveling straight for her this whole time, I am sure of it. It would seem she set this to shake us from her trail, Shino stated. As soon as we dispel it, she will be on the move. Then we don't dispel it, Hinata offered. Naruto and I can lead us to her regardless, and we can get the drop on her. Brilliant, Hinata, Naruto said, causing said girl to blush. We should continue on and be prepared for battle, Shino stated. With a collective nod, the group was off again. Meanwhile, hidden under a small illusion was their quarry. Kurenai had felt them enter the field of her genjutsu, but they have yet to leave. She was slightly disappointed that they, with all their advanced senses and tracking skill, could fall prey to a simple visual illusion. She was content to leave them there for the remainder of the day, until she was forced to vacate her little branch. A dozen high-speed jaw breakers will do that to you. She was startled at the damage they did as bits of bark and wood fell with her to the forest floor. As soon as her feet met ground, she was on the move again, rolling away from a wave of chakra devouring bugs. When she regained her feet, she found herself dodging Juken strikes from a determined Hyuga. A lesser woman would have been felled, but Kurenai wasn't a jonin for nothing. After ducking under a palm strike from Hinata, she grabbed the girl's arm and shoulder-tossed her in the direction of their resident bug user. She didn't anticipate the sheet of crystalline sugar that found its way under the girl's skyward feet. Nor did she expect her legs to fall out from under her as Naruto slid in from the foliage. Looking to the sky, she watched as Hinata launched herself off the plane of sugar, palms extended and shining with chakra. At the last second, she was able to roll out of the way, and into a swarm of Kakai. The two members of Team 8 almost relaxed when the third spoke up. "It's a replacement," Shino said. "Hinata, can you find her?" Hinata nodded, searching her surroundings before calling out, "Naruto." Acting quickly, Naruto turned to the trees behind him, raising his arms to defend. Kurenai's kunai met Naruto's forearm, but instead of a squelch of blood there was only a soft clinking noise. Kurenai tried to pull back but found her knife lodged in a thick layer of crystal sugar. She abandoned her weapon as Naruto willed the crystals to grow outward. Kurenai inwardly winced as she realized how wickedly sharp his sugar could get. With a shrug, the crystals fell apart to white sand. Naruto swept one arm forward and Kurenai ducked as a tendril of sugar leapt forward, stripping the tree behind her of its bark. Everyone who has encountered Naruto's bloodline has felt a moment like this. Something between amusement and disbelief. Kurenai is no exception. It's just sugar," she said, baffled at the damage it had caused. Naruto just smiled, a manic smile that curled around the stick of his lollipop. "Billions of sugar crystals all honed and sharpened by my chakra," he laughed, "and every one of them at my beck and call." His AMS shot outward as sugar collected at his feet before branching off in countless thin tendrils, whipping about, angrily biting at the air like snakes. "It's a wonderful feeling," he continued. "Every grain, every molecule is a part of me. There is no limit to what it can do, what it can form, but I know one thing." Kurenai stiffened as she felt the tip of a kunai at her neck and chest. "It's always going to be sweet," his teammates finished. "I surrender," Kurenai said. "You all did very well. I was so focused on Naruto that I forgot about the other two." "Understandable, sensei," Shino replied. "There is a sense of artistry about it. I would be lying if I said that I has not spaced out slightly when he first showed the control has over it." "Naruto-kun truly loves using it," Hinata stated. "He is always happiest when making his candies or practicing and creating new techniques." Kurenai nodded as Naruto made his way to the group, sugar sliding up his sleeves and tucking away into wherever it is he keeps it. Kurenai looked to the sky. It was about 3 o'clock, 1 or 2 missions and that would be it for the day. Nodding to herself, she called for the team to follow her to the mission office. "This is a mission?" Naruto questioned as they traversed the forest just outside the village walls. "Yes, it is," Kurenai replied, "and a very important one at that." Sensei, forgive me if I am wrong," Hinata began, "but we are looking for a cat, aren't we?" "Yes, we are." "Why?" "The cat belongs to the Fire Lord's wife," Kurenai stated. "But it's a cat," Hinata said. Naruto chuckled. Ever since they had pulled Hinata out of her shell, they had found out one thing about her. It wasn't her weakness in training that had started the decline in her confidence. It was the punishment for speaking out against her elders that had done it. It started there and became a downward spiral. She was a very inquisitive person, and she found the way the elders treated the Branch family very strange. When she was young, she often asked the wrong questions and was reprimanded. "I just pointed out that he was probably too fat to make his way to the laundry and do his own wash," Hinata once told them. "I was 8. Simply put, Hinata was a natural smart ass and, contrary to popular belief, very independent in her household. She washed her own clothing and cooked her own meals, often assisting the Branch family in their duties when she had the time. Maybe if she spent less time on her throne and more time outside, her cat wouldn't have to look elsewhere for entertainment," Hinata stated. Naruto laughed outright at this, and if you focus you could see a slight tremble in Shino's shoulders. Kurenai stood mouth agape at the statement. "It's okay, Kurenai-sensei," Naruto laughed. "It's just sometimes the filter between Hinata-chan's thoughts and her mouth switches off." Hinata blushed slightly but still shot back. "At least the thing between my ears doesn't switch off from time to time." "I believe that would be considered a burn, Naruto-kun," Shino stated as Kurenai laughed. "Har har," Naruto mumbled. "It's okay, Naruto-kun," Hinata smiled, patting his back. "It's always working when it's needed. Forgive me if I am not ecstatic that my brain is only defective when not in use." Which is arguably most of the time, Shino stated flatly. Sure, wait, you just made a joke. Naruto paled. Hinata, the world is coming to an end. Shield me in your decidedly lacking coat space. As stated earlier, Naruto's brain had just had an instance of disuse. As such, he thrust himself into Hinata's open coat with reckless abandon, finding it delightfully softer than Shino's if not a far tighter fit. However, the not-so-gentle chakra-induced slap to the face from the rapidly fading Hyuga jogged his mind. Am I? After waking the comatose Hyuga princess, the team began their mission in earnest, Hinata searching the area with her Byakugan and Naruto sniffing about, while Shino had his bugs search into surrounding caves and animal dens. Naruto, do you think that your summons could be of any help? Kurenai asked, exasperated. I'm not sure, Naruto replied while pricking his thumb, but it couldn't hurt to try. In a puff of smoke, Saku appeared, his wing blades extended in a crouched position. After a quick scan of his surroundings, he retracted the blades and sat on his haunches, glaring at Naruto. Where is the action? He demanded. Sorry, Saku, Naruto replied. We are on a tracking mission and thought you could help. Saku nodded. Better than nothing. The target is a cat belonging to the Fire Lord's wife, Kurenai stated. Saku did a quick double take. Is the cat's name, is it Tora? Kurenai looked at him quizzically. Yes, how did you know? Because, came a female voice, I am the Tiger Clan's top spy. From the canopy dropped a magnificent female tiger. Her coat was sleek and clean, her body just as lean and muscled. She was older than Saku, yet only slightly larger, which was strange. It also seemed Saku's pelt was thicker than hers. In place of blades like Saku's, she had what looked to be folded fans. On her right ear was a crimson bow. Tora, Kurenai stammered. Ah, little Naichan, Tora purred, you have grown since I last saw you. I have spent years doing this, and I have yet to forget a face, much less your lovely eyes, dear. How? Kurenai asked. Child, Tora said in a scolding tone, I have been around since the time of the first, a correspondent between the allied nations of Whirlpool and Leaf, as well as a spy in the daimyo's court, reporting directly to both Kages. Do you not think it strange I have lived so long, nor that I can traverse the distance from the capital here? Kurenai had to keep from slapping herself. Of course it seemed obvious, but at the time she could care less. It was hell chasing Tora through those woods as a genin. Why would we need a spy in the court of our own country? Naruto asked. Young Uzumaki, Tora began, you have much to learn in the ways of politics. I am sure that the Kazekage wishes he had a spy in his daimyo's court. If so, he could have moved to stop the huge budget cut that they have recently been given. I am there to protect the interests of your village, as well as make sure that no shady dealings are taking place. It is logical, Shino stated, considering what has happened to Suna, it would be best to err on the side of reason. Well put, Aburame-san. Tora laughed. So, Hinata began, you have been escaping all this time in order to deliver reports on the goings-on in the court? No, Tora stated, I have been escaping to escape that she-devil of a woman. Since the death of our last summoner, our allegiance with Konoha was limited to my dealings. However, with a new summoner, orders need to be reissued for me to continue my reports. Everyone looked to Naruto, who was busying himself making gummy worms do the worm on his palm. What? He asked. I would like to continue my current mission in the daimyo's court, Tora stated. Is this acceptable to the new summoner, or am I needed elsewhere? I think Aji-san would like you to continue the current mission, Naruto said. Can't have any old crones making bad choices in the capital without our knowing. Understood, Tora stated. Now I think it's time I return. Alright, Kurenai began. But you'll have to catch me first. Tora laughed, her fans extending, showing a purple moon shape in the center. She caught wind and glided into the trees before leaping away. Oh, this should be fun. Saku laughed. Kurenai sighed. Let's get that cat. It's not a cat, sensei, Hinata stated, it's a tiger. Naruto took a deep breath in order to prepare himself for the trial that lay before him. Steeling his resolve, he took a step forward, a step into the lion's den. Well, came a voice from behind him, at least you aren't late this time. Naruto froze and placed his hand, letting loose its grip on the door handle he had just turned. He turned slowly, trying not to make any sudden movements. When he finally got a look behind him, his fears were realized. With a hollow click, Tenten locked the door to the weapons shop before flipping the sign to closed. Naruto gulped. How could such a simple act seem so menacing? In that time, Tenten had closed the distance between them and was standing before him, a small smirk on her face. Today is your first official day of training. Tenten said, to which Naruto nodded. To be honest, Tenten continued, I don't know a formal style for fighting with a naginata. I modified a bojutsu style I picked up from the academy with a spear fighting form I got from the library. At this point Tenten maneuvered her way to Naruto's side, hugging his arm as she looked up at him with a slight pout. If only someone had a scroll or some other guide to learning a formal style. Naruto looked away from her with a small hint of red in his cheeks as he retrieved a scroll from his hip pouch. It was black with a red border and adorned with the Uzumaki swirl symbol. He held it lightly in the palm of his hand, bringing it to eye level with Tenten. A glint made its way into the bun-headed girl's eye as she quickly disengaged from the arm hug and reached for the scroll, which was at that point moved just above her head. Tenten's eyes trailed upward and she whined slightly. Naruto had seen this look before. He had seen the same look in the eyes of many young tiger cubs as he dangled a fresh fish just out of reach. Tenten reached upward only to find the scroll now just off to her left. With another lung it was above Naruto's head. She reached once more, even adding a little hop, only to find her fingers falling short of the coveted scroll. With a huff, Tenten placed her hands on her hips and leveled Naruto with a glare. What gives, Whisker Face? She said plainly. I can't let you see it, he said, for the same reason you can't use the Uzumaki. It's an Uzumaki clan style. But it'll be my clan too soon enough, Naruto-kun. Tenten chided. Naruto reddened slightly but remains resolute. That remains to be seen, but if you have nothing to teach me. No. Tenten said with a frown, even if I can't learn this style I can at least help you with the basics. First we need to get you out of those clothes. What? Naruto asked, turning beet red as he backed away slightly. Tenten's eyes gained a predatory glint. She walked towards the flustered blonde, slowly swaying her hips. Well, she said in a sultry voice, when learning to use a weapon it's best to train in less constricted clothes, helps you to feel looser and get in touch with your body's movement. As she spoke she got closer until her hand was tracing small circles on Naruto's chest. Naruto for his part tried to remain calm, and was slightly alleviated that her explanation made some amount of sense. Sometimes I like to train wearing nothing at all. And then that all went out the window. Naruto's legs shook. Nothing? He questioned, mouth dry. Not a thing. Tenten reiterated, her breath hot upon his skin. Naruto adopted a strange look before chuckling slightly and falling over, face red with a dopey smile. I so got it. Tenten said, giving her finger a lick and touching it to her butt. Tzzzzz. She walked into the changing area in a considerable better mood. Take that academy seduction classes, she thought, tomboy my ass. Am I? Naruto came to with a note taped to his head. Apparently Tenten wanted him to change and come outside, so Naruto threw on a pair of shorts from the rack, and grabbed a loose-fitting black tank top before heading out. Once outside Naruto came to a strange sight. There was a small back lot to the shop about 20 yards long and across, but that wasn't what he was focusing on. It was the fact that the entire yard had been covered in 4-foot-tall wooden posts, each being about 5 inches in diameter. In the center of the yard stood Tenten, holding a simple naginata and balancing upon a single pole. He had to take a deep breath at the sight of what she had on, his mind running wild as it had before. She was wearing a black sports bra with a off-the-shoulder violet top that covered even less than the bra itself. He could clearly see her smooth skin and toned stomach. She's doing it on purpose, he thought indignantly. She also wore the tightest pair of shorts Naruto believed he had ever seen. They hugged her tightly above mid-thigh level, showing off her legs. Such nice legs. No, Naruto thought, she isn't interested in you, she just wants the Uzumaki. However, as his eyes wandered over her form, he found it hard to care. There is more to wielding a blade than learning a style. She finally spoke. Tenten brandished her weapon, holding the shaft just below the middle with her left hand and an arm's length lower with her right. The pole rested to the right of her body with her left leg extended forward and her right foot planted at an angle. When using a mid-ranged weapon such as this you must have a strong stance. She stepped to the left, circling an invisible enemy. You must be able to strike with great force yet remain flexible enough to intercept attacks. Tenten released her left hand grip, her left foot dropping back and the right shifting to face forward. She wedged the shaft between her forearm and back, letting loose a small flurry of slashes upon an unseen foe, each punctuated with a small cry. A lot of people mistake the naginata for a brute force weapon only good for thrusting and gutting opponents. In the same move she returned to her original stance, however just as quickly she brought the butt of her staff forward, delivering a crushing blow to her unseen adversary's face. Her blade found purchase in the post just in front of her. Your mother fought differently, Tenten stated gleefully, a shine in her eyes that Naruto hadn't seen before. They say she was like a whirlpool, unceasing, torrential, yet with such a morbid grace that those she had slain died with looks of awe on their faces. In a show of great agility, she hefted herself up, flipping above the shaft of the blade before grabbing it. Using the momentum from her flip, she ripped the blade from the wood and brought it down in a great arc. At the end of the furry there stood Tenten in the exact same place she had started, her stance strong and blade held firm. "I'll teach you how stand firm," she said, dropping her stance, "but one day you'll kneel before me, and I'll make you mine." Naruto gave a nervous laugh and returned his cheeks a healthy shade of red. Inside his mind was raging, part of him finding Tenten's display extremely attractive, the other questioning her motives, and a small voice at the back of his mind calling out, "She might just succeed. Am I?" It was 1 month to the day that Naruto had began his training with the Bunhair weapons mistress, and he had since then made remarkable progress. For the first day he practiced shifting from the basic forms of the Uzuiseiya style. The style itself relied on a principle called Banbutsurutan, meaning, all things are in a state of flux. Tenten was correct though. Despite the style's dedication to constant movement, it required you to always have a strong balanced core. The most simple of maneuvers could be thrown askew by the weight of the weapon itself, so a strong stance was necessary, but it was imperative that he did not sacrifice speed in place of this. For the first 2 weeks Naruto narrowly escaped castration at the hands of the many poles that littered the small training field. Eventually he was able to run through the first forms of the style, and was surprised at the results. Tenten was left with an intense wanting to learn the style herself, as it flowed so seamlessly. Near the end of the month they began sparring on the poles, Naruto receiving a sound defeat each time yet showing great improvement. Tenten was often caught off guard by the style and was beginning to see why it was so feared. The Naginata itself had just as much capacity for defense as attack, and the style made full use of it. One moment she would be dodging the weighted end of the weapon, and the next the exact same move would be used to block her thrusts before she had to leap back to avoid the slash that followed. His team training was going just as well. Shino had made great progress with his genjutsu training and was now able to work small, on-the-fly illusions. Naruto learned this the hard way when he went to block a kunai that was really a swarm of beetles in disguise. During team spars, Kurenai would declare Shino victor after the opponent was covered with a sufficient amount of bugs, as she didn't want training halted by chakra exhaustion. So far Shino's tactical mind and genjutsu use had earned him a few wins. Hinata had made great progress in her gentle fist training, finally pulling off the katen. As of now she was dissatisfied with the speed at which she erected the barrier, but she was working on it alongside her secret project. Naruto had made slow progress in sealing. The first 2 weeks were spent perfecting his calligraphy skills. The last was spent memorizing the simple sealing arrays. He could now produce storage seals, low-grade explosive tags, and civilian-level suppressor seals on call from memory. Kurenai could not be prouder at their progress. She was surprised, however, that her team had already taken the teamwork aspect from their academy training to heart. When they began team training she found that the three of them had already developed a few collaboration techniques between them. One such technique, a combo between Hinata and Shino, she found to be perfect for their team. "Naruto helped us to develop it," Shino had said, after I had began my first breeding attempt, trying to create a more effective hive. The new beetles had extremely hard exoskeletons, however were far too slow for active battle use. The technique in question made use of the insect's hard outer shell in conjunction with Hinata's gentle fist and Byakugan. Firefly combo, insect tracking dart, Hinata elaborated. I use my bloodline to pinpoint a target, then with the beetle on my palm use a modified gentle fist to launch it at the target. The beetle in question will be female, and secrete a pheromone that will lead the males in my hive directly to it, Shino concluded. Kurenai found it ingenious, and they went on to explain that they had more techniques in the works and a few others already made. Team training from then on consisted first of working on combination jutsu, then of active battle teamwork training in which they would practice their use. Naruto visibly shook with excitement when he first saw Hinata use the katen. When Kurenai questioned this he shook his head, saying it was a secret. For the following week they asked that Kurenai not be present for the first part of team training as they wanted to surprise her with a new technique. Kurenai was just about to return to the training ground for their daily team spar when she was stopped by Cat Mastambu and informed that her team was wanted at the Shinobi Dispatch Station. So there they were standing before the Hokage, Naruto brimming with energy, Shino looking as enthused as ever, and Hinata trying to stand as straight as possible. After reviewing your mission records, Sarutobi began, I have come to the conclusion that it is time you are allowed to take your first C-rank mission. Mizuki, who was in the middle of a C-rank mission of his own organizing mission scrolls, sent Naruto a covert thumbs up which was returned twofold. Jonin-sensei Yuhi Kurenai, their leader, called, Do you believe your team is ready to take on a C-rank mission? Kurenai only gave it a second of thought before nodded in the affirmative. I believe they were ready before they even came under my command, Hokage-sama. They all have an astounding drive, and when they band together are leaps and bounds beyond their peers. That is good to hear. The aging Hokage smiled. I have the perfect mission for them. The Hokage retrieved a scroll from behind the desk and handed it to Kurenai, who unrolled it with her team looking on. Recently, a small village on the border of the Land of Rivers has been having bandit problems. The local militia was sure they could deal with it, so we did not send any of our ninja. Kurenai nodded, reading the dossier. The town in question was Bayambiraku, a town well known for its orchards of brown pine. The small grape-like plum fruits it grows are dried and mixed into many exotic spices. However, we have just received word that 3 days ago, while a majority of the militia was on patrol, the bandits stormed the town and killed what was left of the militia. However, instead of looting, the bandits fled, taking with them all the children from the orphanage as well as a small group of women. Naruto growled, tightly gripping his fist as Hinata placed a hand on his shoulder, and Shino's Kikai buzzed in discomfort. It is a common tactic among large bandit groups like this, Sarutobi said. They take the young ones and turn them into killers. They sell the women, or use them until they break. Hinata was slightly taken aback, and this time it was Naruto who moved to comfort her. His eyes shone with anger at what he was hearing. This is a rescue mission, the Sandaime stated, his voice stern. The bandits were said to flee to the Land of Rivers, find them and return the civilians to their village. Hi. The team responded before filing out. Kurenai. Sarutobi called just before she left. Kurenai turned, looking up at her aged leader. Sarutobi laced his hands before his face, hiding his mouth. The Hokage's hat dipped, shadowing his features. His pipe smoked off to the left of his face. I know you can complete this with minimal casualties, he said, his voice low. However, there is something about your team you do not know, and shall not know until it is needed of you. Hokage-sama, Kurenai began, if I am not to know, then what is it you wish to tell me? Sarutobi sighed, his breath coming out in a long billowy cloud. In order for your squad to succeed as its secondary squad type, one thing must happen. What is that, Hokage-sama? Kurenai asked. Inside, she was disturbed. Her squad was a recon and tracking unit, yet the Hokage had something else planned the entire time. What was it? The Hokage met her questioning ruby-colored eyes with his look stern, demanding. Uzumaki Naruto must take a life on this mission. It is imperative to your squad's future success that he get over the stigma that afflicts fresh genin. Kurenai was slightly surprised. She knew that her team would have to kill, but had thought it would occur on a later C rank like most. It was normally standard procedure to shield them from death as much as possible until at least 2 months active duty. What was it that they were meant to do? What was Naruto meant to do? Then it hit her. Hokage-sama, she asked incredulously, you can't mean. The assassination squad comprised of Namikaze Minato, Aburame Shibi, and Hyuga Hayashi had a success rate of 100%. I approached both the Aburame and Hyuga clan heads and they have accepted the arrangement. They have also covertly been preparing their children for the position. But you cannot protect them from this, Kurenai, Sarutobi stated. They are shinobi of the leaf. They will be what their village needs them to be. Sadly enough, their village needs them to be killers quite often. Kurenai steeled her features. Hi. Dismissed. Amai. After a day's travel, the excited young squad reached Bayambiraku. The village sat on the border of fire and river. As such, unlike Konoha, it was nestled in a large expanse of grass, not bark. In the distance, the orchards for which the town was known jutted up like spouts of water in a green sea. The worn dirt paths of the village were empty, dust sweeping all throughout. Everyone must have hidden away, Kurenai stated. Naruto bristled slightly. He had changed into his hunter's attire for this mission. He scanned the surroundings before stepping forward. Cowards! He yelled. Naruto, Kurenai began, but was cut off by the blonde's continued outburst. Why do you hide? He called, glaring at the doors of the surrounding buildings. They have already taken what they want. They have taken your women and children. He growled, pacing up and down the street, waiting for someone to step forward. Where is your honor? Where has all your bravery gone? They took it with them when they stole my wife. Naruto turned to a pitiful sight. A man in farmer's clothing stood in a doorway, clutching a small glass bottle like a lifeline. His eyes were red and puffy, his cheeks streaked with tears. When I returned from patrol, she was gone, he growled, punching the wall beside him. Then they fled into the Land of Rivers. We tracked them as far as we could, but lost them 6 miles out past the river. We? Naruto questioned. I, the man amended, and 3 others who lost their wives. What about the rest of your militia? Naruto asked. Where were they? Holed up in the town hall, convinced the bandits would return. They have barred the doors and won't open them until you leave. Ninja confirmed the defeat of the menacing bandit threat. He said, voice dripping with sarcasm and alcohol. Who ordered this mission? Kurenai decided to interject. I did, the man replied. Then why does the militia believe we were hired to kill the bandits? Kurenai asked. It was the only way I could get them to pay up for the mission. Naruto smirked as Shino shifted his glasses before speaking. Where are the other 3 who were searching? The man sent a quick glare towards the west. Still searching. I would be with them, but someone had to send for the mission and wait for you all. Naruto smiled. When he entered the village, he was appalled. The village stank of fear. The dirt paths were still laden with footprints, all fleeing towards a single building. There was no fight. The people of this village let themselves be taken. Even the militia guards had fled from their posts. He noted from a long line trailing a pair of heavy footprints towards the town hall. A man with a spear ran right past the struggle, a mass of footprints overlapping one another, and a dragging trail out of the village itself. He had let her be taken. In a village of cowards, Naruto said, I am glad to have met you. The man looked to him, slightly taken back by the boy's look. Glacial blue eyes, the eyes of a beast, shone from beneath his cowl. I promise I will bring your wife back to you. For the first time in 3 days, the young militiaman felt hope well in his chest. As Kurenai motioned for her team to move forward, he watched the green-clad hunter disappear into orchards to the west before looking towards the town hall. Am I? Naruto, was that really necessary? Kurenai asked as they leapt towards the river the man had spoke of. They let them be taken, sensei. Naruto calmly replied. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? Hinata interjected. The signs were faint, but I am sure if you had activated your Byakugan you would have seen them. Hinata looked down slightly before Naruto spoke again. You said yourself that your father believes your sight to be the sharpest at short range of any Hyuga he has seen. There were barely signs of struggle, Naruto continued. Everyone fled, even the militiamen. There was no fighting, only cowardice. Kurenai sighed. She had forgotten how very great a hunter Naruto actually was. He had shown throughout the month that he was quite adept. His eyes were trained to spot the slightest difference in the leaves of a bush, to spot thin fibers of clothing or hair snagged on branches, to know what happened without being there. I am inclined to agree with you then, she said. We have to hurry, their captives must be horrified. It was moments later when they found the river. Just as the man had said, there were tracks leading into the water, but none leading out. There is no hope in tracking by scent, Naruto concluded. They could have escaped downriver, Shino suggested. They would have to have a boat or raft, Naruto agreed. The water is too deep to wade downstream. Upstream, Hinata amended. For some reason this river is flowing north. Naruto placed a hand into the water before smirking. Good catch, Hinata-chan. We are currently in the land of rivers. It is known to be home to vast canyons carved over thousands of years. This river must drain into one of those, then head south. The other 2 militiamen must not have noticed, Shino added. Their tracks lead south. Kurenai smiled as she watched her team work. This was what the team was made for. This and? Kurenai shook her head. Best not to think on that subject for now. We'll follow the river and search for the bandits, Naruto concluded. Agreed, Shino replied. I suggest pursuit formation 1, Hinata added. With me in the lead position, we will be able to pinpoint their location early on, as well as keep a safe distance in order to plan the rescue. Naruto and Shino nodded, taking their positions, Naruto on her left flank and Shino high and to the right. Kurenai filled the rearguard position just in case of an ambush. They continued running through the trees at the river's edge, Hinata's Byakugan blazing. Every now and again she would look off in one or another direction before continuing onward. They were 3 miles downriver when she ordered a halt. All was silent as the indigo hair girl focused her sight. I found them, she finally said. They have set up in an old fort of some kind. A fort? Naruto repeated. The nearest Leaf outpost is 4 days' run past the border, Shino stated. Not Leaf, Hinata clarified. Sand. I can see their emblem, it's faded but there. The entire fort is old, the walls are falling apart. It must be a remnant of the Second Shinobi War, Kurenai stated. Suna occupied the land of rivers then. Whirlpool, it was called Whirlpool Country before Suna destroyed it, Naruto stated, "This is the land of my ancestors." Naruto sighed. Since they had entered the land of rivers, he had felt an urge to go to what remained of the hidden whirlpool. Somehow he could feel it calling to him like a song he couldn't remember singing, yet knew he had. Every now and again as they ran through the trees he would hazard a look back, and could swear he could feel the ocean spray on his cheeks. He could hear the crashing waves. Hinata and Shino were having separate thoughts. Shino had known that Naruto was the descendant of a nearly dead clan, but not that they had hailed from a conquered nation. Naruto never spoke much of his family, and Shino never pushed the subject as he knew it was touchy for the blonde. Now, however, he found himself curious as to his friend's origins. Hinata was saddened. As Hyuga heiress, she was expected to know basic history. The destruction of Whirlpool was a tragic affair. The country was not only conquered, but robbed of its very spirit. Suna superimposed their traditions on the surviving people of Whirlpool, taking away their own. There was no one left who could recreate the brilliant tapestries that hung in the throne room of Fire Nation's capital. There was none who could navigate the canyons and rivers of the country with such ease. The land of rivers was dead, its culture lost to itself. Kurenai sighed, knowing more so than Hinata the wrongness of what was done here. Suna, now an ally, was at one of very tyrannical military power. The history of Whirlpool was not only suppressed by military occupation, but destroyed to discourage rebellion. The history of Whirlpool was burned the very day of the attack. They set fire to the libraries, clan houses, and government centers. What worried her was that Naruto knew these things, and she worried what he would do if he were to face a shinobi of Suna. "Where are the hostages?" Naruto finally asked. "The women and young girls are together in a building near the west wall, 2 guards at the door." Hinata said. "The young boys are in cages in the center of the compound, 2 boys to a single cage. There is food for the women and girls, but it looks untouched. The only thing present in the boys' cages are rocks?" "Let's not question it for now," Shino said. "Can you give us the general layout of the fort?" "Hi. It's a simple rectangular for 30 yards by 50. The main gate is located on the north wall, and there seems to be no back exit." While she spoke, Shino pulled out a scroll and began to make a map of the fort. "There are 3 buildings, one that is built into the west wall and runs the length of it. That is where the women are being held. A small shed-like building located just left of the main entrance, and a 2-story tower in the northeast corner, 1 archer in position." Shino laid the map out before his team as they all gathered around. 4 bugs set themselves down on the paper outside of the fort. "Hinata," he asked once more, "what are their numbers, and show on the map where they are most concentrated." "There are about 20 of them," she said, reaching out to the map, 2 at the door to the female hostages, 1 in the tower, and the rest are watching the boys in the cages. They seem to be yelling at them, but I have not yet learned to read lips." "That is fine," Shino said, motioning his hand forward as a number of bugs took up positions. "It seems that the best course of action would be to allow Hinata and I to take the larger group. We can incapacitate our targets quickly and release the boys." Kurenai bit her lips slightly as she watched her team work up a strategy. She wasn't sure how to get Naruto to kill on this mission, or if she even wanted to. Part of her wanted to shield him from it just a bit longer, take whatever punishment from the third, but don't change the candy freak she had come to know. As she looked them over, though, watching as they each nodded and turned, Shino's beetle taking out the one in the tower as Hinata's picked of the larger group with its assistance from the tower. Naruto's getting rid of the guards, then leading a train of beetles out of the base. She made her decision. "These are dangerous people. You don't have the luxury of mercy. They were a team. You are to kill on sight. They would take this step together." "Am I?" Shino took a deep breath as he clung to the east wall of the fort, waiting for his signal. He thought about what Kurenai had said. Killing was something that he had long ago accepted would be a part of his life. As an Aburaim, he was conditioned to look at it logically. They were his enemies and he must eliminate them for the good of the mission. Yet a part of him was scared, not sure if he could do it. "Shino, move now," came Hinata's voice from his earpiece. There was no time to think now. He pushed forward, vaulting over the wall as Hinata came in through the front gate, Kurenai beside her. He watched as his target, who had slightly lazed in his watch, fumbled for his bow. Quickly he leapt midway up the tower, sticking to the side and continuing up. When he made it to the top, he already had his kunai out and ready to attack. There stood his target, arrow notched, ready to take fire. In that moment all doubt was washed from his mind. From behind he could see that he was aiming for his sensei. Shino quickly kicked the man's legs and sending him to one knee as the arrow went flying in an arc over the west wall. With the man's back against his left leg, Shino pulled his hair back with his left hand and swiftly brought his blade across the man's neck. There was a gurgle and one last choked breath before the man fell still. Shino kicked him off the side of the tower, watching as one of his comrades looked to his fallen form before being hit by a small salvo of kunai thrown by his sensei. Shino released his kikai and they spread across the battlefield, sucking the enemy of their very essence. He gave them no